This story starts with our female lead opening her eyes while feeling cold. My body feels numb. She heard voice of glass breaking and wonders what was that noise. A boy was crying over her, and tears were dropping from his face. She looks at the boy and thinks, what mesmerizing eyes. But why is he sobbing? His tears are warm. And she closes her eyes again. After some time she opens her eyes in a room. All the maids seeing her wake up rush towards her calling, Your Majesty! Her Royal Majesty is awake! Her Majesty has awakened! He feels dizzy, she thinks, Her Majesty? Who are they referring to? She looks towards them and wondered, wait, are they talking about me? Then she looks at herself in the mirror and realized that she's changed. She wondered, what on earth happened to me? Where am I? Who am I? While taking medicine, she said, so bitter? The maid told, you have to take your medicine if you want to recover faster, Your Majesty. She takes medicine with and said, fine. After days of enduring bitter medicine and speaking with different people. Diana? Yes, ma'am. I came to the realization that I had somehow entered the world of a romance novel called Lady and the Beast. That was one incredible read. Lady and the Beast was a fantasy romance novel loosely inspired by the fairy tale Beauty and the Beast. The main characters were Blake, the cursed beastly crown prince, and the wild Richard, who both fought to win the heart of the heroine, Diana. I had somehow found myself in the body of Anthea, who was Diana's half-sister. By marrying Crown Prince Blake, Anthea became a princess. However, Anthea took one look at Blake's face, marked by the hereditary curse of his royal family, and took her own life on their wedding day. This incident plunged Blake into despair. He saw himself as a monster and shut himself, and his heart, away from the outside world. His soul descended into darkness, and unable to win Diana's heart, he passed away tragically young. According to the novel, Anthea drowns in the lake, and Blake dives in to recover her lifeless body. But now that my soul is in Anthea's body, she didn't die. She recalled, that young boy from yesterday must have been Blake. If you despise me so much, she thinks, he seemed to cry for me so earnestly that night, but he hasn't come to see me, not even once. It's already been 5 days since I woke up. He must be in pain. His bride tried to end her life because of his cursed appearance. It would be strange if he were all right. She then tries to stand up. The maid said, Oh, Your Majesty, do you want to go somewhere? She replied, I want to visit the Crown Prince. The maid asked, You want to see His Royal Highness? Madam, with all due respect, the Crown Prince was deeply shocked by what happened. Perhaps it would be best if you waited a few more days before making any announcements, Anthea said. Don't worry about anything. Just lead the way. The maid complied. Yes, Your Majesty. While walking in the hallway following the maid, Anthea thinks, I have no intention of leaving Blake. In fact, in Lady and the Beast, Blake was my favorite character. Oh no, I couldn't believe it when Diana chose Richard over Blake. Poor Blake. Now, I have the chance to rewrite Blake's tragically dark past. There's no way I'm giving that up. Besides, Anthea has nowhere else to go. Anthea was the daughter of Count Valencia and his first wife. Her mother passed away during childbirth, and the Count quickly remarried. Soon after, his second daughter, Diana, was born. The Count and his new wife treated Anthea cruelly and sent her off to marry the Crown Prince, fully aware of his curse and his fate of an early death. Anthea didn't take her own life solely because of Blake's cursed face. She threw herself into the icy water out of despair from being abandoned by her family. She resolved, so, even if I leave this place, I have no home to return to. And I have no intention of letting Blake drown in his own despair. Anthea opens the door and went inside. She said, Your Majesty? It's me, Anthea. The prince was hiding himself in a blanket, he said. No! Stay away from me! Anthea stops and said, Please, Your Majesty. The prince again shouted, hiding himself. Don't come near me! I am horribly disfigured! Leave! I will scare you. He was trembling and crying. Anthea thinks in her mind, he doesn't resent me for trying to end my life. He's scared of scaring me. Anthea then takes a sigh and went ahead and pulled his blanket away from him. Panicked by this, the prince said, No! He looks at Anthea, then again hides his face. He said, What do you think you're doing? How dare you take my blanket? Anthea said in her mind, Hey, people will get the wrong idea. You silly novel character. She thinks, where is the dark, brooding Blake, the master of charm? He's more like a soft, fluffy bunny. Well, first things first, Anthea said. I have something to tell you, Prince Blake. She then peels off the eye patch from Prince's face. The prince shouted, Hey! How dare you! Turning his face, he said, don't look. Anthea grabs his face with both of her hands and said, Why not? You are stunning, your majesty. The prince asked while confused. What? She told. I have never seen anyone as breathtaking as you. Anthea thinks in her mind, I'm not saying this to comfort you. It's the truth. His left face may be covered with the black whorls of his family curse, but his large eyes, regal nose, tender lips, and graceful chin all come together in angelic harmony. It's undeniably a beautiful face. Looking at his face, she thinks, when you meet Diana, you will be released from your curse. Once the curse mark is erased from Blake's face, he will be described as the most handsome man on the continent. Even now, he has such a pretty face. Averting his gaze, he said, But, you hate me. Anthea replied, I don't hate you. The prince said, But. Anthea continued, Let me make this clear, Your Highness. I did not try to commit suicide. I slipped and fell into the lake by accident. She thinks in her mind, well, that's not exactly true. Anthea really did commit suicide from the shock of her betrothed's cursed appearance. However, I have decided to pretend that it was an accident, since I am now Anthea. If it had been me, I would never have jumped into the lake because of Blake's face. Blake asked, Are you telling the truth? Anthea replied, Yes. I heard that you saved me from drowning. I came here to thank you for saving my life. Blake asked, Are you really thankful? She replied, Yes, Your Highness. How could I not be when you saved my life? Tears came falling from Blake's face. While sobbing, he said, I thought you killed yourself because of me. Anthea smiles and said, Why would I do that? I have everything to live for. I married you. Blake, trying to stop his tears, said, I thought you might hate me for saving your life. That's why I was afraid to see you. Anthea thinks in her mind, he must have been so distressed during the 5 days I was unconscious. Anthea hugs him and said, No, Prince Blake. My dear husband, I really like you. Hug, so please don't worry about anything. Blake also hugs her and said, I like you too. Anthea tells in her mind, Haha. Blake, you big fat liar. You like my little sister. In the novel Lady and the Beast, Blake likes the main character Diana. When the Emperor learned of Blake's fondness for Diana, he requested the Count of Valencia to arrange a marriage for the two. However, Count Valencia refused to send his beloved Diana to wed the cursed crown prince and sent Anthea instead. Well, a little white lie is sometimes better than the harsh, ugly truth. Anthea then said, Then shall we share a bed from now on? Hearing this, Blake gets shocked and crawls back. He blushed. Not realizing the consequences, Anthea thinks, Hey, yo, Mr. Subhero, why do you look so alarmed? You're making me feel like I suggested something scandalous. Anthea thinks in her mind, the House of Valencia possessed the power of light. Diana was able to free Blake from his curse because of the Valencia family's power of light. Anthea was also a daughter of Valencia, but her powers were not as strong as Diana's, who was the chosen successor. Still, she too had the power. Prince Blake's curse wasn't simply a skin-deep mark, it also caused him excruciating pain. The pain got worse in cold weather. Yet, he jumped into the freezing lake in the middle of winter to save me. I'm sure he endured agonizing pain. She thinks, and knowing him, he's hardly the type to express it. He must have suffered in silence. The Valencia power of light is unleashed through physical contact. The more intimate the touch, the more intense its restorative powers. This resulted in some really intense, seductive scenes. So steamy. Blake is still too young for that kind of treatment, but I was hoping to at least hold his hand. But if he's going to act this way, I don't think I'll be able to do anything. Explaining him, Anthea said, Your Highness, please do not misunderstand me. We are married, so it's only natural that we sleep together. It's really nothing to be afraid of. Blake blushed and said, but I'm so embarrassed. Looking at him blushing, Anthea thinks, what happened to the wild masculinity of the original Prince Blake? I only see a red-eyed bunny rabbit. She tells in her mind, in 10 years, will this bunny boy really grow into a sexy beast? Human transformation is really quite something. Feeling determined, she thinks, anyway, I can't leave this sick child alone like this. Anthea pulls his blanket and said, Come with me. Anthea grabs his hands and said, Since we are married, from now on, we must sleep together every night. Getting startled, Blake asked, Every night? Anthea asked with a smirk, What's wrong? Don't you want to? He replied, No, I didn't say that. Anthea, are you really okay with this? She asked. With what? He again asked. Are you sure you want to sleep with me? She replied without hesitation. Of course, Prince Blake. Like I said, I really like you. Blake blushed again and thinks she says she likes me. Anthea asked. What do you think? Do you feel comfortable holding my hand? Holding his hands, Anthea tries to observe. Can he feel the power of light releasing him from his curse? Ah, Anthea thinks. According to the novel, the pain of Blake's curse would subside when he and Diana held hands. Since I'm a Valencia, my touch should have some effect too. But it doesn't seem to be working. I don't see any change. Since I've somehow entered this universe, I really want to relieve some of Blake's pain. While she was busy thinking Blake was continuously blushing, she resolved, I guess my powers aren't strong enough. She leaves his hands and turns. Huh! Blake stops her and said, No, don't go. As she was about to leave, he hugs her from behind and said, Anthea, your hand. Your hand is so nice and warm. He said, so please, don't leave me. Blake's teary voice. Anthea replied, Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere. He asked. Really? She replied, trying to reassure him. Yes, really. I just came down from the bed to pick up the blanket. Blushing, Blake crawled back. Anthea smiles and thinks. After giving me a back hug, he trembled. She said, If you don't want to sleep with me, he asked. His voice was breaking. No, it's not that. I just wanted to make sure. Are you really willing to sleep with a monster like me? Anthea scolded him gently. Your Highness, please don't say that word. You are not a monster, he stammered. But, Anthea gently lifted his hands and said, Didn't I tell you? I think you are so beautiful. You are far from being a monster. And not only that, your curse will be broken someday. Blake asked, with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. My curse will be broken, she told. Yes, I'm sure of it. When you turn 18, your curse will be broken, and you will live happily ever after. So until then, please be strong and ignore what other people say. He questioned, while sounding uncertain. When I'm 18? Anthea explained in her mind. In the Valencia family, just as one member always becomes the successor and protector of the power of light, one person in the Zerthilian imperial household always inherits the family curse. Long ago, the first emperor, Philip, became the lover of the goddess of light. As a sign of her affection, she bestowed some of her powers upon him, and with this power, Philip founded a mighty empire. However, after becoming emperor, Philip betrayed the goddess and fell in love with another woman. In her rage, the goddess cursed his descendants, a curse that would be passed down through time. The cursed successor would bear black birthmarks on their face that would slowly and painfully spread over their body, ultimately leading to death before adulthood. Even you, Blake, come close to death on the night of your 18th birthday. But when you meet Diana, you'll be freed from the curse, Anthea said, holding out her pinky. I promise you, you will never be defeated by the Zerthilian curse. Cross my heart and hope to die. Hearing this, Blake snatches away his hand and said, No, don't ever say that again. You must never die, Anthea. Even if I die, you must live. He trembles while saying. Anthea grabs his trembling hand and said, Don't worry, I won't die. And neither will you, Prince Blake. So don't worry, he whispered, while his voice is shaky. Anthea, she said as she wiped his tears. My dear husband is such a crybaby, he protested. I am not a crybaby, she teased. Yes, you are, he insisted. I am not. She showed him smiling and asked, Then why is my handkerchief all wet? Blake repeated, but his voice was soft. I am not a crybaby, she comforted him. All right. It's okay, he wailed softly. No, Anthea said, gently patting his back. Everything will be okay, don't worry. His eyes glittered as he blinked sleepily. He fell asleep. She murmured before opening her eyes the next day. She wondered, watching his innocent, sleeping face. Did he hold my hand all night long? He's so cute, she thought. She gently patted his head, but then his eyes fluttered open. Bale opens his eyes and smiles, she asked. Huh! Why are you smiling? He replied, while his face was glowing with joy. Because I'm so happy, she asked, while surprised. Why? He said, his voice filled with warmth. Because you are lying by my side. She was touched by his words. She thought to herself as the birds outside chirped in the early morning. I wish I could always make you smile like this, she tells in her mind. The next few days passed peacefully. I spent all my time with Blake. One thing I noticed was that Blake rarely left his room unless it was absolutely necessary. He would eat and read in his room, keeping to himself. I also noticed something peculiar about his eating habits. Not again, greens! More greens, Anthea thought, staring at the plate in front of her. For 3 days in a row, during every single meal, it's the same thing. Does the cook think we're rabbits? The menu was almost identical each day. This is the same salty soup as yesterday's, she asked, siding at the table. Prince Blake, what kind of food do you like? While eating, he answered, I like everything. She probed further. Do you enjoy meat and fish? He replied eagerly, yes. Anthea concluded. Okay, so Blake is not a vegetarian. He may be cursed, but he has no dietary restrictions, she thinks in her mind. Then why is it always wilted salad and rehashed leftovers? I wondered. There could only be one reason. The staff had no respect for the monster, Crown Prince. Blake may be the Crown Prince and I his wife, but we were young and powerless. The servants were blatantly slighting us. The current Lord Chamberlain, Brown, the eldest son of Marquis Hamill, had clearly gone too far. Then Blake asked, Anthea, is the food not to your liking? And wanting to worry him, she lied. No, no! The food is fine, Anthea called. Melissa. She came and responded. Yes, Your Highness, she said. After the meal, please ask the Lord Chamberlain to come to my room. There's something I need to ask him. Melissa responded with a bow. Yes, Your Royal Highness. Turning her attention to Prince Blake, Anthea offered him. Try these roasted mushrooms. Blake hesitated. I don't really care for mushrooms, Anthea insisted. You must eat them. They're good for you. Come on, now. She watched him as he complied. Don't just wash it down with water. Chew it before swallowing. Blake took a bite, gulping it down, and feels proud I ate it, he said softly, holding her hand. Your hand is so nice and warm. Whenever I hold your hand, I feel better, Anthea. Anthea puffed her cheeks in delight. So cute, she thought, her heart swelling. She said, I'm so glad. Now eat the rest of the mushrooms, Blake said obediently. Okay. As she watched him eat, Anthea wondered to herself, if my hand comforts Blake, does this mean I also possess some power of light? After some time, the servant said. Your Royal Highness, Lord Chamberlain Brown is here to see you, Anthea told. Show him in. Lord Brown entered, bowing slightly. Your Royal Highness, how may I be of service? Anthea observed him and thinks, he was the eldest son of Marquis Hamill, and he hadn't appeared once while she was bedridden. As the son of a marquis, he must think he outranks me, the child bride of the cursed prince. Anthea began, her voice laced with irritation. I find the quality of the Crown Prince's meals rather atrocious. Brown chuckled lightly, clearly unimpressed. Is that why you called me? I had expected it to be more urgent business. Anthea's eyes narrowed and her voice grew heated. The Crown Prince is the light of the Empire, but the meals he is served are not even fit to feed livestock. If this isn't urgent business, I don't know what is. Brown sneered. The light of the Empire. Your Royal Highness, you are new to this, so you probably aren't aware that the budget set aside to maintain the Crown Prince's household is not very high. His Imperial Majesty does not give us sufficient funds, so what can we do but scrimp and save? Anthea thought, blatant liar. She thought perhaps the Crown Prince's allocations doesn't allow for luxuries, but I'm sure it is enough to provide meat at the table. She kept her composure. I understand, she said calmly. Brown, misinterpreting her response, said, What a relief! I was afraid you might not understand the situation because of your youth. I am so glad your Highness proves to be sensible. Anthea's expression hardened. She said, I shall release you from your duties. Brown's face paled. He furiously asked, What? What did you just say? He was clearly taken aback. Anthea called out, Lord Edmund. Then she said, Take Brown Hamill to the dungeon for embezzlement of the imperial coffers, and make sure to carry out a thorough investigation of his crime. Brown roared as his face turning red with rage. Embezzlement? Do you even know the meaning of that word? Anthea responded coldly. I do. What you did is the very definition of embezzlement. Brown trembled, his confidence waning. He shouted as Lord Edmund approached. Unhand me at once! Do you know who I am? I am the heir to Marquis Hamill. That little girl married the cursed monster, and now she wants to play princess? Anthea remained calm as Brown was dragged away, his threats echoing in the hallway. Mark my words! You will pay for this! He screamed. Anthea instructed. Please add this to the list of Brown's crimes: contempt of the Crown Prince and Princess. Lord Edmund responded with a nod. Yes, Your Royal Highness. After that, Lord Edmund dragged away Brown as he was shouting, "Let go of me." I said, "Let go." Lord Edmund stares at him, and Brown froze in fear. After the commotion settled, the court of the Crown Prince fell into murmurs and confusion. But Anthea wasn't done. She decided to go one step further. She fired almost all of the palace staff. "This is the list you requested, Your Highness." Melissa handed her a parchment. Anthea carefully reviewed it. In Lady and the Beast, after Blake is stripped of his position as Crown Prince, most of his staff betray him immediately and go off to join Richard. There's no need to keep future betrayers by his side. She flipped through the list, marking names. Him, and him too. She made her decision. Everyone on the list with a mark next to his or her name is fired. She got rid of everyone who would betray Blake in the novel. A silence fell over the halls, and Anthea thinks, now that the palace was almost empty. Melissa, looking anxious, approached Anthea. "Excuse me, Your Highness. All the staff were chosen by the Emperor himself. Would it be all right to dismiss them all?" Looking at her worried, Anthea thinks, poor Melissa. She really looks worried. Anthea smiled gently at Melissa. "It's all right. Don't worry about a thing." Melissa's face glowed and she said, "Yes, ma'am. When would you like dinner to be served?" Anthea blinked, remembering that she had sent off all the cooks. She waved it off. "You don't have to worry about that either. I'm going to cook today." Melissa's eyes widened in shock. "Your Highness can cook?" Anthea replied with a grin. "Yes. I was roaming through the castle, and I found something quite interesting. Follow me, and I'll show you." Melissa followed Anthea through the halls until they arrived at the place that Anthea wanted to show. Melissa was shocked that how did the princess come all the way here. Anthea dramatically unveiled what she had found. "Tada!" Melissa stared in disbelief. "Your Highness, what in the world are these?" Anthea beamed with excitement. "Look, this is doenjang," she said, holding up a jar. "And this is gochujang?" Melissa asked, confused. "Doenjang? Gochujang?" Anthea smiled, holding the jars up. "They are condiments from the Orient. Adding these fermented sauces will enhance the flavor of food," Melissa exclaimed, awe evident in her voice. "Your Highness, how do you know so much? Are you, maybe, a genius?" Anthea chuckled nervously and said, When I was a child I read about them, in books," she replied, mentally apologizing for the lie. "Sorry for lying, Melissa." Melissa remembered hearing that the Emperor had gathered flavors and spices from all corners of the world to please his Empress, but she never expected the palace to have such a wide array of ingredients. Anthea thought, "This makes me so mad. The kitchen had all these wonderful ingredients, but only served us salad greens." Anthea took a deep breath, rolling up her sleeves. "Now then, shall we begin?" The kitchen soon filled with the sounds of sizzling, chopping, and sprinkling. Anthea worked efficiently, her hands moving with practiced ease. After a while, she stepped back, wiping her brow. "Phew, all done!" Melissa's eyes sparkled with admiration. "Our princess is a genius in the kitchen." While grinning, Anthea said, "Shall we call the prince to dinner?" As the dishes were laid out, steam rising and fragrances filling the room, Blake asked. His curiosity was piqued. "Whoa, what is all this?" Anthea explained. "It's Oriental cuisine, Your Highness," she said. "I once read about it in a book. All the ingredients were in the pantry, so I gave it a try." Blake asked. "Anthea, did you make all this by yourself?" She confirmed. "Yes, Your Highness." "Wow." Blake stared at the food, clearly impressed, and asked, "So how do you eat this?" Anthea giggled inwardly. This must be the first time Blake is having Korean food, she thought. She said, "Oriental cuisine is quite different from our normal fare, isn't it? I too discovered Asian food recently. These are Korean-style meatballs. They're called dongrangting." Blake listened intently, nodding. Anthea added with a playful smile, "Because they're round and cute, just like you." Blake blushed slightly. "You think I'm cute?" Piercing the meatball with a fork, Anthea laughed and said, "Yes, you're like a little bunny rabbit. Now open your mouth." Blake obediently opened his mouth as Anthea fed him a meatball. Nom nom. Blake chewed, his face lighting up, his eyes widened in delight. He said, "Wow, so yummy!" Anthea asked, while her heart warming at the sight of his happiness. "Do you like them?" Blake nodded enthusiastically. Yes, yeah," Anthea said, while gesturing toward the steaming pot. Now, this stew is called doenjangjigi. Try it on your own, Anthea told. It has a peculiar taste, so if you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. Okay. Blake scooped some up, taking a cautious bite. Anthea thought, watching him closely, I wonder if he'll like it. He's probably tasted nothing like it before. Blake exclaimed. This is good. It's the yummiest thing I've had in my entire life. Anthea couldn't help but smile, proud of her efforts. Then I'll make it for you often. Yippee! Blake cheered, his joy infectious. Anthea mused fondly, it feels like I'm with a little son rather than a husband. But this is just fine. She knew that for Blake to be freed from his curse, he had to fall in love with Diana. I'm going to stay by his side, make him happy, and watch over him until he becomes an adult. Once he reaches adulthood, I will leave him. Anthea was determined to save Blake, but she understood her limitations. I want to save Blake, I really do. But I don't have the power to release him from his curse. My role is to protect him just until he meets Diana. According to the original novel, Blake would suffer 3 tragedies during his childhood. First, he inherited the family curse. Second, his bride, Anthea, kills herself on their wedding day. And finally, he suffers the death of his father, Emperor Thenston. When Emperor Thenston passed away, Blake's uncle, the Duke of Carseal, would become the next emperor. Richard, the main hero of the novel, was the bastard son of the Duke of Carseal. Blake's uncle would strip him of his title as crown prince, and the cursed boy, still young and weak, would be exiled to a southern island where he would endure a horrible childhood. Blake inherited his curse long before I entered Anthea's body. She thought sadly, there's nothing I can do to help him in this respect. However, Emperor Thenston's death still lies ahead in the future. If I try, maybe I can prevent it. She thinks, after Blake's wedding ceremony in the novel, the Emperor had gone to the Valley of Chaos. Anthea decided she would wait patiently until he returned. After a few days, Anthea concluded, as it turned out, Blake loved Korean food. He didn't pretend to like it out of politeness. His admiration was genuine, he said with respect. Anthea, this is so good! Seeing his happiness, Anthea was filled with a sense of purpose. She thinks in her mind, he really seemed to enjoy Korean cuisine. She resolved, I want to make Korean food the authentic way. But to do that, she realized she would need a furnace and a cauldron. This nation has relatively advanced ovens, she noted, her mind whirling with ideas. I think I'll draw a picture of a traditional Korean cauldron and ask the goldsmith to make one for me. Once the cauldron is made, I'll ask him to build a furnace in the palace kitchen. Anthea wandered around, measuring potential spots. Now, where would be a good spot to place the cauldron? Just as she was inspecting a corner, a voice startled her. What are you doing here? Someone came and stood near her. She heard the sound of steps. Ah! She yelped, jumping in surprise. Turning her head, she said, Hey! You scared me! The person apologized. Extending his hand toward her, he said, Sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. Examining him, Anthea thinks, dark eyebrows, a sculpted jawline, a scar on his neck, and fiery red eyes like a wild animal's. I instinctively knew who he was. Richard? This young boy could only be Richard Carseal, the hero of Lady and the Beast, he greeted with a smirk. Long time, no see, Anthea. Anthea thinks, I was right. Richard was the second son of the Duke of Carseal, the Emperor's younger brother. Since the curse, Blake was destined to die a tragic young death. The Duke and his sons were next in line for the throne. Richard's mother had been a slave, which excluded him from the line of succession. But that never stopped him. Richard was ambitious. One by one, he eliminated his rivals, eventually ascending to the throne. Towards the end of the novel, Richard used Diana to eliminate Blake. She shakes her head and thinks, No, I won't let that happen. Emperor Thenston will not die a sudden death, and Blake will not be stripped of his crown. I won't allow it. She resolved herself and stands up. Anthea asked, And what brings you here? Richard said. You caused quite an uproar from the first day of your marriage. I heard you let go of practically all the court staff. Anthea raised an eyebrow and thinks. In the process, I eliminated all the spies you planted in the palace. That must have riled you up, Anthea asked. What's your point? He remarked. That was rather hasty of you and quite unlike your usual self, Anthea asked. Hasty, you say? Richard explained. The Hamill family has the confidence and trust of His Imperial Majesty. It was rash of you to send his eldest son to the dungeon. All the court staff were personally selected by His Majesty. It wasn't right to cast them away like that, Anthea furiously thought inwardly. They were spies of you and your family, and you dare lecture me? Then Anthea composed herself and said, We can't have untrustworthy people by our side. Richard told. One needs tolerance when dealing with inferiors. You cannot gain their loyalty if you kick them out on a sudden whim, Anthea reminded him. I believe you are stepping out of line, my lord. This does not concern you. If you have nothing else to say, please go. Richard didn't move. Instead, he leaned in slightly, a sly smile on his lips. Are you still upset? Taken aback, Anthea asked. Excuse me? He asked again. Are you still sulking because I refuse to accept your love? Anthea's mind reeled. What is this bullshit? Richard said with mock pity. Anthea, I know you like me. I'm sorry I can't return your affections. As you know, I'm a bastard son. I would be defying the Emperor if I asked for your hand. Anthea stared at him in disbelief. She thought, you dirty dog. So this is how he would woo, use, and cast away his lovers, huh? Conniving little prick. Richard gave me a patronizing look. Sweet, kind Anthea. You understand my delicate predicament, don't you? He added. I know you like me. That was it. Anthea lost her reason right about now. She straightened up. With her voice firm, she said, Sir Richard, you are being delusional. Who says I like you? Richard blinked, momentarily thrown off. Anthea continued. Richard Carseal, I've had enough of your rudeness. How dare you show such disrespect to the Crown Princess? This is a grave discourtesy to the imperial throne, Richard asked, his voice dipping into a more serious tone. Anthea, are you still mad at me? As he said, he tried to grab Anthea's hand. Suddenly, Blake cut through the tension and grabs Richard's hand before he can grab Anthea's hand. While startled, Anthea said, Your Highness, Blake said. Stop. Can't you see Anthea is displeased? Richard said. There must be some misunderstanding, Your Highness. Lady Valencia and I are childhood friends. Blake interrupted coldly. Richard, do not address her as Lady Valencia. She is the Crown Princess, Richard said. Please forgive me, Your Highness. It was my mistake. Richard bowed, attempting to recover his dignity. Blake's gaze was cold. He said, From now on, be careful. The next time you are discourteous to the princess, you will not be forgiven. Now get out of here. He flicked his hand dismissively. Richard shuddered, hesitating for a moment before turning on his heel to leave. Duh! Anthea mumbled under her breath, still disgusted by Richard's arrogance. Blake, noticing her expression, touched her hand gently and said, Don't look that way. Turning her head towards Blake, Anthea said, Excuse me? His grip firm yet tender. He said softly, Anthea, don't look at other men. Anthea blinked again, processing his words before smiling. She said, Don't worry. I won't. Blake's hand tightened slightly, as if reassured by her response. Anthea added, Besides, that wasn't a man. That was a dog. Blake asked. A dog? Her anger flaring up again, she exclaimed. Yes. A total son of a dog. How dare he think I like him? He must be crazy. Some nerve. Blake's expression softened, but there was a hint of uncertainty. He asked, Then, you don't like him? Richard is very popular. She made a face of pure disgust. She declared, Yuck. I abhor those types of smooth-talking rakes. What a turn-off. Blake blinked, watching her reaction with wide eyes. She said while giggling, I prefer cute guys that remind me of bunny rabbits. Blake's eyes widened further, blinking rapidly in surprise, as a faint blush dusted his cheeks. He murmured. He reached up to rub his cheek gently, caressing the soft skin as his blush deepened. Looking at him, Anthea feels touched as her was tension melting away. I can feel all my anger just melting away too, Anthea asked suddenly. What kind of women does your highness like? Blake's response was immediate. I like you, Anthea asked again. No, I mean, what type do you like? Without missing a beat, Blake replied. Anthea, you're my type. All I need is you. Blake hugs her as he said. His words struck her like an arrow to the heart. She replied, I feel the same way about you, your highness. Feeling the temperature of water, Anthea said to herself. Just the way I like it. She then went to where Blake was present and said, Your highness, he asked. Yes? What is it, Anthea? He added, sensing something on her mind. Anthea said, Starting today, I'll assist you in taking a bath. Blake's eyes widened in shock. What? He trembled, clearly embarrassed. Maybe later, he mumbled, trying to evade the topic. Anthea grabbed his shoulders and said, Your Highness? I've already drawn you a bath. She grabbed him with iron grip. He protested. No! What if you get infected with my curse? Anthea reassured him. That won't happen. But Blake wasn't convinced. No! You could be doomed to unhappiness. Rumor had it that anyone who saw or touched the cursed sigils would be cursed or visited by misfortune. That was why the cursed successor couldn't step outside and was exiled to the southern islands. Blake, like all the cursed ancestors before him, should have been stripped of his title and banished from the imperial palace as soon as the marks appeared. But Emperor Thenston loved his son too much to let that happen. Anthea tries to convince him. I am not unhappy at all. Please ignore such false rumors, Blake said. What if it's not a rumor? Anthea countered. But I've already seen your face and held your hand. And I'm fine. His voice cracked with shame. The whorls on my face and hands are small. Those on my body are huge, Anthea said softly, placing her hand over his. Prince Blake, he pulled away, clenching his fists. They're horrible. I'm a monster. Crouching in fear, he said, I know you'll hate me if you see them. His voice was filled with anguish. Blake dropped his head in defeat. Anthea said, Your Highness? Anthea thinks, so the rumors are just an excuse. He didn't want to show me the marks on his body, not because of the curse, but because of his own insecurities. I've already seen the whorls on his face and hands, so I thought he wouldn't mind me seeing them on his body. I was wrong, she said gently as she gets close. Your Highness, look at me. Blake hesitated but lifted his head. Sitting in front of him, Anthea said, I've already told you before, you are not a monster. You are not monstrous. She reached out, caressing his face tenderly. She said, And touching you will not bring me unhappiness, she added. Ever since I married you, I've been happy. Every single day, he asked. You're happy? Her heart swelling with affection. She said, Yes. I'm happy that you are my husband. Then they hugged each other. Hugging her, Blake said, I'm also very happy because I married you. Then Anthea said, But then, don't ever say you're a monster, all right? He replied, All right. She then again asked, Shall we take a bath now? Blake gets startled again. He shakes his head in denial. Anthea asked, Why not? I just told you. I don't mind the marks on your body. He mumbles. I'm ashamed to show myself, Anthea teasingly said. You're embarrassed? While blushing, Blake said, Don't make fun of me. She continued, I'm not making fun of you. I just think you're cute. Blake protested. See? You're making fun of me again. Anthea asked, If you're this shy, how did you endure the maid waiting on you while taking a bath? He answered, I had no problem before, because it wasn't you. Anthea asked, Are you discriminating against me, Prince Blake? Opposing her, Blake said, And no, of course not. Anthea squeezes his hand and said, If that's true, step into the bathtub. Blake nods his head, resolving himself. Before undressing, he pauses and hesitatingly said, You'd better promise that you won't take fright. Anthea said, You promise not to say anything like that anymore. Blake countered, Don't forget, you promised not to hate me after seeing my body. Anthea said, If you talk this way again, I'm really going to be mad. I mean it this time. While concerned, Blake again said, Promise not to leave me. Anthea thinks, I must leave Blake before he turns 18 years old. Only the novel's heroine, Diana, can free him from his curse. My role in this story is to protect him throughout his childhood and back away when the time is right. Blake asked, Why won't you answer me? As tears dropped from his face, he asked, Anthea, are you planning to leave me? Anthea clenches his fist and said, No, of course not. She thinks inwardly, I'm sorry I have to lie. She then said, Where would I go without my little bunny rabbit husband? But this is a white lie. He asked, You promise? Wiping tears from his face, Anthea said, I promise. This is my home now. Let's go take a bath. We don't want the water to get cold, do we? Blake replied, All right. After that, Blake hesitates, but still took of his shirt. Meanwhile, sitting in his room, Richard thinks, All the spies that we planted in the Crown Prince's household have been sent off. Anthea fired all the chief courtiers and servants. My father, the Duke of Carseal, and my half-brother Frank were furious that their plans had been foiled by a mere 10-year-old girl. The maid who had assisted Blake in taking his bath had been a key informant. It was such a shame that she had been let go. However, I still have a useful card up my sleeve. Taking a sip of tea, he thinks, the Crown Princess, Anthea. Anthea used to adore me, and the naive simpleton didn't even bother to hide her feelings. It was so easy to tempt a little child who was lonely and in despair. If I could use the crown princess as my puppet, she would be more effective than 10 other spies combined. That's why I'd gone to the wing of the palace where the crown prince resides. He recalled the scene in his mind. Anthea said, "I've had enough of your rudeness. How dare you show such disrespect to the crown princess? This is a grave discourtesy and slight to the imperial throne." He processes, but things didn't go according to plan. The crown prince has changed too. Not only did he use his strength on me, but something about him is fundamentally different. Anthea's presence must have had an effect on that monster. All of a sudden, Anthea seems very desirable. I want her. Looking at the marks on Blake's body, Anthea said to herself, I must not show an ounce of surprise or dread. Anthea looks at him for a moment, then grabs his hand and asked, "Why are you so skinny? Now, let's get in the water." "I don't want you to catch a cold," Blake replied. "Okay." While rinsing his body, Anthea thinks the cursed whirls cover half of his tiny frame. He's only 8 years old. She remembered, according to the novel, Blake suffers excruciating pain in the deep layers of his flesh as the marks spread. "Poor little thing, how you must have suffered." Anthea touched the marks with her hand and Blake said, "Don't touch me. What if you get infected?" Anthea replied, "I won't. And if you say that one more time, I'm really going to get angry," Blake replied with a sad expression. "All right." While rinsing him off, Anthea sings a melody. "My little hubby's chubby tummy." Blake heard it and quickly said, "I don't have a chubby tummy." Anthea thought after his reaction. "It's just a song." She said, "You do too." While panicking, Blake said, "Oops. It's sticking out just a teeny bit because I just ate." Anthea said, "See, it is sticking out a little." Blake pouted and said, "Then I'm not going to have dinner anymore." Peeved, Anthea then said, "Then you won't grow, and I'll always be taller than you?" he asked. "Oh no! Then what should I do?" He sat there in sorrow. Anthea giggles and said, "I was just kidding. You don't have a chubby tummy, so eat lots of food, okay?" Anthea pats his head. She added, "Then you can grow tall and handsome." Blake's face glowed up and he said, "Okay, I'll eat lots of food so I can grow big and strong," she said. "Please do," Blake then said while determined. "Yup, soon I'm going to be bigger and stronger than you." After some time, looking at a box with a letter and roses, Anthea thought, "What's this? A present from Richard? And a letter of apology?" Anthea read the letter. It was as, "I am so sorry about what happened yesterday. Please accept this as a token of my regret, blah blah blah." Anthea thinks in her mind, "What's this guy up to? Something smells fishy. Does he think I can be useful to him? Is he trying to seduce me into becoming one of his spies?" Anthea was processing. "I thought I made myself very clear that day. I guess he's still delusional." Then Anthea called, "Melissa, could you please send these back?" "No, return the letter also. That way, he won't be confused about my intentions," Melissa complied. "As you wish, Your Highness. I understand." Then Anthea thinks, I hope he gives up his nasty plans." After some time, Richard sent flowers and gifts again and again, but Anthea sent them all back. Again someday, Butler Hans said, "Good morning, Your Highness." "Sir Richard," Anthea cut him off and said, "Hans, I told you there's no need even to tell me. Just send them back," Hans said. "I was going to do that, ma'am. But this time, he has sent a priceless treasure," Anthea asked. "A treasure?" Hans replied. "Yes, Your Highness. It's a ring set with mermaid's breath." Anthea felt rage and said, "Crazy bastard. Mermaid's breath is a mana stone that contains the power of the sea. There are only a few in existence in the entire world. In Lady and the Beast, Richard gave Diana that mermaid's breath ring. Anthea wonders, why did he give me this? This should go to Diana. He's lost his mind in his desire to recruit me as his spy." She remembered in the novel, it is described as one of the most beautiful jewels in the entire world. "I'm rather curious, but I won't take a look. Who knows what Richard is up to? I refuse to fall into his trap," Anthea said to Hans. "I don't want to see it. You can tell him that I wouldn't even accept a mine full of mana stones from him," she said with a determined resolve, so he should stop wasting his time and mine. After a few days, Anthea went outside the palace with Melissa and Sir Edmund. Excited by this outing, Anthea said, "Melissa! Edmund! Come quick! It must be over there!" Melissa said, "Your Highness, could you please slow down a little?" But Anthea was excited to leave the palace grounds for the very first time. Anthea dashed towards the blacksmith's. Standing in front of the blacksmith's shop, Anthea's heart raced. The blacksmith's, at last! Inside the shop she pulled out a design. This is the cauldron that I want custom made. Do you think you can do it? Blacksmith thinks for a moment, looking at the design, and then said, I shall give it a try, your highness, he reassured. There's nothing I can't make with my forge, the blacksmith boasted confidently. Anthea said, Thank you, he replied. It's my pleasure, ma'am. While on the way back, Melissa inquired, Your highness, is there any other place you'd like to go to? Anthea refused, she said. No, let's return to the palace now. She thinks in her mind, Blake is probably wondering where I am, and waiting for my return. Anthea rushed back to the palace, practically hopping with excitement. Blake was there waiting for her, beaming as he saw her approach. He called Anthea and quickly rushed to her and hugs her. He asked while smiling, Did you have a nice time in the town area? Anthea replied, Yes, thank you. I had a nice day. Blake asked, concerned. Was there anyone or anything bothering you today? Anthea reassured him, gently stroking his hair. Not at all. Did you worry about me? Blake said. Yes. It was getting late, and you weren't coming home, she said to herself. I'm glad I returned to the palace straight away. And he then puts his hand on Blake's face and said, Now why don't we take off your mask? She pulled it off and said, I'm sure you will feel much more comfortable. Blake hesitated and said, Anthea, you always want me to take off my clothes. Now you want me to take off my mask too? Anthea thought. Wow, now you're talking like a hero of a trashy novel. People might get the wrong idea, she said with a grin, while caressing him. Why not? It always makes me happy to see the handsome face of my husband, Blake said, blushing. It always makes me happy to see you too, Anthea, she asked hopefully. Then will you take off your mask when it's just the two of us? He replied. Sure. Anthea noticed how touchy-feely Blake was acting. She asked, Prince Blake, did something happen while I was away? No, nothing, Blake replied quickly. Anthea asked again, Are you sure? Blake hesitated, then finally admitted, Well, to be honest, I was a little afraid that you had run away from me. But now that I know you won't abandon me like that, I'm fine. Anthea noticed his hands were shaking. She said, Do not worry, dear husband. I am not going anywhere. Really? Blake asked, thrilled. She said, Yes, really. But if, by any chance, you fall in love with someone else, I shall not be in your way. Blake asked, confused. Why do you say that? Anthea explained. Our marriage was arranged by the Emperor, your father. It was not done with your approval or consent. Later on, when you are all grown up, you may discover that you love someone else, Blake declared firmly. No, Anthea. I will always love you and only you, Anthea said to him. Your Highness, when you become an adult and are released from your curse, you will become the most dashing prince. Beautiful women from all over the world will fall in love with you, Blake said earnestly. You are the most beautiful woman in the world, Anthea said. Maybe for now, but you may change your mind once you are older. You are still young, so, Blake said with serious expressions. Madam, you are my one and only wife, and I, Prince Blake, am your one and only husband. I don't need any other woman, Blake asked while tensed. By any chance, do you feel the need for another man? She exclaimed. No, of course not. All I ever want or need is you, your Highness. Anthea thought, Diana is the only person in the world who can free Blake from his curse. White lies are all very nice, but I really should not cross the line. Then Blake hugs her, and while embraced he said, I know I'm being selfish, but could you please stay by my side, just until my death? It won't be too long. Anthea felt touched and tears start falling from her face. She said while trying to stop her tears, You will not die! I won't let it happen! To hell with curses! Blake was flustered, he said. Please don't cry, Anthea. I'm so sorry. Forget what I just said, Anthea said. Don't. Your shirt is getting soiled. Blake was gently wiping her tears away. He said, It's all right. Suddenly, the door creaked open. A butler came and said, Your Highnesses, His Imperial Majesty has returned to the palace. Anthea thought, finally, Blake's father, the most powerful emperor in all of history, Emperor Thenston, has returned to the palace. The story picks up with the grand arrival of Emperor Thenston, the most powerful ruler in history. His return to the palace is nothing short of commanding, marking an important moment for the empire. Anthea stands protectively by Blake's side, the two holding hands as another figure enters. The tension rises, signaling that something significant is about to happen. Blake anxiously asks if the Emperor has returned safely. The response? Emperor Thenston is not only unharmed but also victorious, having defeated the dreaded Door of Darkness without a scratch. Anthea and Blake exchange a glance, knowing this is just the beginning of what's to come. Blake reassures himself with quiet confidence, saying, "I'm sure he did. My father is a strong man." But as his words fade, a heavy silence lingers in the room. Anthea notices that the Emperor has not yet called for Blake, his son, leaving her concerned. Suddenly, the servant informs Princess Diana that someone from the blacksmith's shop has come to see her. Surprised, Diana simply responds, "I see." Anthea politely asks Blake for permission to leave, saying she'll be right back. Blake smiles and responds warmly, "Sure. Take your time, Anthea." As Anthea walks alongside the servant, he hesitates before revealing the truth. "Your Highness, actually, it's not the blacksmith that wants to see you," he admits. Anthea's eyes widen as she asks, "Did His Imperial Majesty summon me?" The servant confirms, "Yes, Your Highness," then curiously asks how she knew. Anthea pauses before replying. "Well," Anthea thinks to herself, "I had a feeling the Emperor would want to see me." She thinks that Hans fabricated the story to prevent Blake from feeling hurt by his father's indifference. Anthea reflects, acknowledging, "Hans is very thoughtful." The servant hesitantly suggests, "He's probably displeased about your letting go of the staff." Anthea, however, confidently thinks, "I'm pretty sure he's not angry about that, although he may pretend to be." As she continues walking, Hans advises Anthea, "If he says anything regarding that, just apologize profusely. I'll tell His Majesty that I counseled your actions, and he will forgive you." Anthea reflects on his words, realizing Hans is willing to risk his life as a commoner to protect her. She recalls how, even in Lady and the Beast, Hans was ready to sacrifice everything for Prince Blake. "Hans," Anthea calls softly as they walk. "Yes, my princess," he replies, his voice steady and attentive. "Please don't sacrifice your life so easily," Anthea says earnestly. "If you're not around, who will protect the crown prince?" Hans looks concerned and tries to protest. "But Your Highness," Anthea reassures him with a bright smile, "there's no need to worry. I'm confident I can sort things out." Hans gazes at her in awe, softly uttering, "Princess Anthea." Hans smiles brightly and declares with unwavering loyalty, "I shall always be at your service." The tale shifts to the Empire of Light, a place once favored by the goddess of light. However, after Emperor Philip betrayed her, his descendants were cursed to bear the weight of his actions for all eternity. The palace worked tirelessly to conceal the curse, a dark secret tied to the throne. Despite this, the goddess of light cherished the empire and sought to protect its people from the tyranny of their rulers. To deliver her warning, she cursed one descendant in each generation, ensuring her message would not be forgotten. The imperial court, desperate to protect its honor, spread false rumors about the cursed successor. He became the scapegoat for the empire, with whispers of the curse being contagious. Ultimately, the cursed successor was banished to the southern islands, where he lived out his days in exile until his death. However, Emperor Thenston chose not to exile Blake. Instead, he sent him to an annex of the palace, deeming it unnecessary to formally dethrone him. The prince was believed to be doomed to an early death anyway. The greatest courtesy the emperor showed his son, for whom he had no affection, was neglect, or so it seemed. Emperor Thenston's indifference was merely an act, carefully crafted to protect his only son from the dangers that surrounded them. Anthea reflects on the bond between father and son, acknowledging, "The emperor loves his son dearly, and Blake yearns deeply for his father's affection." Determined, she thinks to herself, "I must win His Majesty's favor and serve as a bridge between father and son." Anthea, filled with determination, steadies herself and thinks, "I know I can do it." The attendant announces with a bow, "Your Imperial Majesty, the Crown Princess Anthea has come to pay her respects." The soft sound of her step echoes. Anthea steps forward, her figure poised and graceful. The sound of her shoes tapping the ground resonates through the air as she bows her head respectfully before the grand palace. Anthea steps into the grand hall, her voice steady and respectful. "Good morning to Your Majesty, the light of our empire," she says, her words ringing with sincerity. The emperor sits regally upon his throne, his presence commanding and unmoving, as the sound of her greeting echoes softly in the room. Anthea stands frozen, her emerald eyes wide as she stares at the emperor. Silence fills the air as her thoughts race. Oh, my God. The Emperor, surrounded by an aura of regality and roses, meets her gaze with a calm yet piercing expression. Anthea's inner thoughts swirl in disbelief. Why isn't he the main character of this tale? Just look at this gorgeous hunk. From any angle, he is the perfect debonair hero of romance. The Emperor, seated atop the grand staircase with a commanding presence, speaks. Long time no see, Princess. I heard you sent Lord Chamberlain Brown to the dungeon. Please explain yourself. Anthea gulps, realizing the gravity of the situation, even as her thoughts remain distracted. Anthea straightens her back, addressing the Emperor confidently. She explained, the Lord Chamberlain was embezzling palace funds. All I did was give him the punishment he richly deserves. Gasps echo through the hall as murmurs rise. Embezzlement? A nobleman near the staircase flares up, his face red with indignation. My son has always been loyal and dutiful to the Empire. How dare you try to frame him with your blatant lies? His voice rises into a howl, drawing unwanted attention. This is mortifying. Anthea remains composed, holding her ground despite the nobleman's outburst. Mortifying? She echoes, her voice calm but resolute. How could anyone be mortified when the evidence is so obviously clear? She gestures to the meticulously detailed ledger in her hand titled, Acts of Treason by the Lord Chamberlain. Turning to the Emperor, she steps forward confidently. Your Majesty, please allow me to present this ledger for your examination, she declares, holding out the incriminating document for the court to witness. As the Emperor flips through the ledger, his expression remains unreadable. The tension in the room is palpable, and all eyes are on him. Finally, he speaks, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Your son has been very busy, stealing from my coffers, the Emperor declares coldly. Gasps ripple through the gathered court as the nobleman's face pales. His previous confidence crumbles, replaced by visible shock and panic. The Emperor's words are decisive, and the evidence undeniable, leaving no room for the accused to retaliate. The nobleman, Marquis Hamel, erupts in anger, his voice trembling as he accuses the princess of orchestrating a conspiracy. This is a malicious conspiracy. My son has been the Empire's most loyal subject. But Princess Anthea's composure remains unshaken. She steps forward and delivers her rebuttal with sharp precision. Your son ordered the imperial chef to serve days-old thin spinach soup to the crown prince while reserving the choicest veal steaks for himself, Your Majesty. Marquis Hamel, she continues, her voice steady and firm. Is this your idea of loyalty to the Empire? The crowd murmurs, watching the dramatic confrontation unfold, as Hamel's indignation begins to falter under the weight of undeniable truth. Princess Anthea does not let Marquis Hamel's earlier outburst shake her resolve. She raises her voice, the determination clear in her words. Taking funds from the imperial treasury and squandering them at gambling tables, is that your idea of loyalty? She questions sharply, her emerald eyes blazing with conviction. Marquis Hamel's face twists in rage and disbelief, a bead of sweat rolling down his temple. He slams his fist down in defiance, the sound echoing through the hall as he growls. What the? Be careful what you say. Emperor Thenston's voice cuts through the tense atmosphere, commanding and laced with authority. Marquis Hamel, he says slowly, his crimson eyes gleaming under the royal light. The room falls into a heavy silence as all attention shifts to the Emperor, seated regally on his throne. Do you have a death wish? The chilling question reverberates, each word sharp and deliberate. His expression, though composed, carries an unmistakable warning. The Marquis freezes, his earlier bravado draining away as fear takes its place. The weight of his misdeeds and the Emperor's wrath loom over him, leaving the room in an almost suffocating silence. The Marquis stammers in panic, his composure completely unraveling. Your Majesty, I beg your pardon, he pleads, his voice trembling as cold sweat beads on his forehead. Emperor Thenston's gaze sharpens. His voice is calm, but it carries the weight of undeniable authority. Be careful about how you speak, he warns, each word slow and deliberate, leaving no room for misinterpretation. The Emperor's unexpected declaration fills the grand hall with a deafening silence. His voice, deep and authoritative, echoes across the chamber as he addresses Princess Anthea with words no one could have anticipated. To my daughter-in-law, Marquis Hamel stammers, blaming Anthea for insulting his family. Emperor Thenston, unyielding, draws his sword and declares, You just raise your fist in the presence of the imperial family. Hamel trembles, realizing the grave mistake he's made, silenced by the Emperor's authority. The Emperor's voice turns icy as he glares at Marquis Hamel. What were you going to do? Lay your hands on the Crown Princess, he demands, his crimson eyes glowing with anger. Hamel stutters in panic. Never. The Emperor cuts him off sharply. Now you dare to lie to your king? His words thunder through the hall, silencing everyone present. The Emperor's sword snaps to attention, grazing Marquis Hamel and leaving him shivering in fear. Anthea, startled but steady, watches the scene unfold as her presence commands silent authority. Colin approaches Anthea and advises softly, Your Highness, perhaps you should return to your quarters. Anthea gets startled and agreed. Yes, I believe that would be a good idea. Anthea notices the noble bowing respectfully as she reflects. His name was Colin, wasn't it? I think I can trust him. She begins rummaging through her belongings, her actions deliberate as she considers her next move. Anthea holds out a sparkling animated crystal and says, Please take this. Colin, curious, asks, What is this, Your Highness? Anthea explains, her tone steady and confident. This is an animated crystal. It recorded Brown Hamel insulting the Crown Prince and myself. Colin looks at the crystal and asks, You had this prepared? Anthea responds firmly, I wouldn't have accused the Marquis without any evidence. Colin nodding slightly. Of course. Colin bows respectfully and states, I shall send this to His Majesty. Marquis Hamel faced severe consequences for his actions. His hand was severed as punishment for attempting to strike the Crown Princess. His son's tongue was cut off for insulting the Crown Princess and embezzling from the imperial treasury. Both were sentenced to 30 years of hard labor, their family stripped of its title. The once prestigious Marquis family was utterly destroyed in a single day. No one dared to defend the Hamels. The Marquis had brazenly attempted to strike the Crown Princess in front of the Emperor, and his son treated her with blatant scorn and disrespect. Even though she was the bride of the monster, Crown Prince, their actions had crossed a line. Not a single person stepped forward to take the Hamels' side. Anthea reflects as she sits, noting that the Emperor's official duties for the day must be over. Yet, he has not summoned her or Blake. She wonders anxiously if this silence signifies his intention to continue neglecting Blake for the rest of his life. Anthea reflects that Emperor Thenston might have used the Hamel family's downfall as an excuse to eliminate them, a plan she inadvertently supported. She hoped her role would earn her a private audience with him, but his continued silence frustrates her. Determined, Anthea resolves not to let things remain as they are. Anthea decides to take matters into her own hands, resolving to meet Emperor Thenston herself. She instructs Melissa to prepare a carriage, intending to go to Filion Castle. However, Melissa hesitantly advises her to formally request an audience with the Emperor first, expressing concern over her direct approach. Anthea decides against making a formal request, reasoning that an unannounced visit might yield better results. Smiling confidently, she asks Melissa to prepare the carriage. Melissa complies, and Anthea steps into the elegant carriage, ready to confront the Emperor directly. As Anthea prepares to leave, she feels a gentle tug on her cloak. Turning, she sees Blake standing there, his hand clutching her cape, his expression filled with concern. Prince Blake, she whispers, her heart moved by his silent plea. The delicate moment is surrounded by an aura of blooming flowers, emphasizing the deep bond between them. Blake looks up at Anthea with his fiery red eyes, a mix of curiosity and concern in his voice. Anthea, where are you going? He asks. Anthea, wearing a gentle smile, replies, I want to visit the village square. But Blake, unconvinced, furrows his brow and counters. Don't lie. You're going to see my father, aren't you? His sharp intuition leaves her momentarily speechless. Anthea reassures Blake with a soft smile. I'll be right back. But Blake, with determination in his voice, insists. Let's go together. His red eyes filled with sincerity, he adds. I will protect you. So if you're going to see the Emperor, let me come with you. His words leave Anthea both touched and slightly taken aback. Anthea contemplates for a moment before nodding gently. Very well. Let's go together then. Blake's face brightens with a wide smile, his enthusiasm shining through as he exclaims, Good! The bond between them seems to strengthen with this simple yet significant agreement. Anthea and Blake hold hands tightly as they step into the carriage. Anthea's thoughts turn inward, reflecting on the complex bond between the Emperor and his son. I know the Emperor loves his son, she thinks, her gaze softening as she glances at Blake. As the ruler of the Empire, he cannot summon the Cursed One openly. But I believe if Blake approaches him first, the Emperor will not turn him away. The carriage begins to move, the road ahead promising a new chapter in their journey. As the grand castle looms ahead, Anthea and Blake arrive with determination. Anthea thinks to herself, his meeting with the royal counselors must be over by now. We should go directly to his private chambers. The sound of their steps echoes through the regal hallway, building anticipation. Reaching the grand doors, guarded by stoic sentries, they pause, ready to face the emperor once again. As the guards move to secure the imperial office, one sternly states, "You may not enter the imperial office unless you have made a formal request for an audience beforehand." Their strict demeanor halts Anthea and Blake, the air filled with tension as the guards maintain their authoritative stance. Anthea steps forward, her emerald eyes blazing with determination, as she declares, "How dare you attempt to lay your hands on the crown princess?" Her words echo with unwavering authority, commanding respect and putting everyone on notice. Anthea smiles confidently, turning to Blake. "Prince Blake, let's go in," she says, her hand reaching out to clasp his firmly. Blake, reassured by her strength, nods as they step forward together, ready to face what lies ahead. Anthea and Blake push open the grand doors, stepping inside. Anthea freezes mid-step, her emerald eyes widening in shock. Beside her, Blake's expression mirrors her surprise. Before them stands Emperor Thenston, casually drying his hair with a towel, his royal composure undiminished despite his relaxed state. The scene is framed with elegance, as if even this unguarded moment exuded regal perfection. Anthea's thoughts spin wildly as she processes the sight, the sheer unexpectedness leaving her speechless. Emperor Thenston, radiating an almost ethereal glow, turns his gaze toward Anthea and Blake, his tone composed yet curious. "What brings you two here?" he asks, his deep voice filling the room. Anthea, startled and blushing furiously, struggles to find her words. Meanwhile, Blake, ever composed in his father's presence, steps forward, ready to answer, though clearly taken aback by the Emperor's casual demeanor. Anthea's thoughts race as she tries to recover her composure, her cheeks burning a bright crimson. Why is he so perfect? She wonders, her heart pounding. The Emperor's chiseled form reminds her of the romance novels she used to read, throwing her completely off guard. Meanwhile, Emperor Thenston's piercing gaze settles on her as he reiterates, "I asked what you're doing here." His tone is calm yet firm, breaking through Anthea's flustered internal dialogue. Anthea shakes herself mentally, determined to regain focus. "Pull yourself together, Anthea," she scolds herself. "You need to win the Emperor's trust and serve as a bridge between father and son. A sincere compliment might be the best way to start." She takes a deep breath, searching for the right words. "Come on, think of something flattering to say," she urges herself, hoping to impress Emperor Thenston and salvage the situation. Anthea blurts out, "Your Majesty, what sexy abs you have!" Her words hang in the air as silence descends upon the room. A moment later, she realizes her mistake, her thoughts spiraling into panic. "Oh, my God, Anthea, are you out of your mind?" Her face burns with embarrassment as she struggles to backpedal. "Oh, Your Majesty, I didn't mean that," she stammers, horrified by her impulsive outburst. Anthea is overwhelmed by her blunder, thinking, "I'm doomed. Forget about winning his favor. I just hope he won't kick me out of the castle." Desperate, she curtsies deeply and tries to recover. "Your Majesty, please accept my deepest apologies," she pleads. "It's just that I've never seen a man's body before." Blake's eyes widen in shock, his face turning beet red as he exclaims, "WHA?" The situation spirals into even more chaos. Anthea and Blake are utterly mortified, with Anthea thinking, "I'm double doomed." The Emperor calmly slips on his robe, his expression unreadable. He remarks, "Perhaps now is not a good time for a conversation," as he turns away, leaving Anthea flustered and desperate to fix the situation. Anthea watches nervously as the Emperor tightens his belt with deliberate precision. Her thoughts spiral in panic. Look at him tie his belt, ever so securely. Will I end up joining the Lord Chamberlain? Meanwhile, Blake stands behind her, equally tense and unsure of what to do next. The atmosphere remains heavy with awkwardness. The Emperor takes a glance at his son, and then turns his gaze. He then said, "I shall summon you soon." His words hang heavily in the air, leaving Anthea and Blake unsure of what to expect next. Blake was standing there unable to say anything. Blake and Anthea bow respectfully to the Emperor. Anthea responds with poise, "Yes, Your Majesty. Have a good day, sir." The pair then turn and leave the room, with Blake adding softly to Anthea, "We shall return to our quarters." Anthea and Blake walk silently through the grand halls of the palace. The golden sunlight filters through the windows, casting a warm glow on the polished floors and ornate decorations. Anthea glances at Blake, her expression thoughtful, while Blake maintains his composure, his eyes fixed ahead, lost in deep contemplation. The vastness of the palace and the weight of their roles seem to envelop them as they head back to their quarters. Anthea walks alongside Blake, her mind heavy with concern. She thinks about how Blake's father failed to acknowledge him despite their long separation, understanding how much it must hurt him. Noticing Blake's somber demeanor, she softly addresses him, trying to provide comfort. "Your Highness, you must be tired," she says gently, her voice filled with empathy, hoping to lighten his burden. Blake agrees, his voice steady but tired. "Yes. I'd like to get some rest," he says, gently releasing Anthea's hand. He notices Edmund nearby and approaches him. "Edmund, can I talk to you for a moment?" Blake asks, his tone serious yet polite. Edmund bows slightly, acknowledging the prince's request. "Of course, Your Highness," he replies, his expression attentive as he prepares to listen. Blake quietly retreats to his quarters, his hand lingering briefly on the door before it closes. Anthea watches him go, concern evident in her eyes. Edmund, sensing her worry, speaks in a reassuring tone. "Do not worry, Princess. I'll take care of His Highness." Anthea nods softly, her lips curving into a faint smile. "Thank you," she replies, her voice filled with genuine gratitude. Blake steps into the room with Edmund following closely behind. The atmosphere is heavy yet calm as Edmund speaks. "You wanted to see me, sir?" Blake turns, his crimson eyes meeting Edmund's gaze with a determined expression. His voice is steady as he commands, "Edmund, take off your shirt." Edmund, taken aback for a moment, blinks in surprise, unsure of Blake's intent but nods respectfully, prepared to comply with the prince's unexpected request. Edmund hesitates briefly, confused by the unusual request but responds with a respectful, "Yes, sir." While his face flushes slightly, he begins removing his uniform, neatly placing his coat aside. Blake's crimson eyes widen slightly as Edmund reveals a well-toned physique. A faint blush creeps onto Blake's cheeks, and a look of surprise flashes across his face, betraying his usual stoic demeanor. Blake, now visibly excited, earnestly asks Edmund, "What do I have to do to make my body look like yours?" His tone is serious, and his expression reveals genuine curiosity, though his small stature contrasts amusingly with his ambition. Edmund, trying to maintain his composure, responds, "Your Highness, would you like to develop your abdominal muscles?" His voice carries a mix of politeness and slight bewilderment at the unexpected conversation. He remembered the scene where Anthea blurted out, "Your Majesty, please accept my deepest apologies. It's just that I've never seen a man's body before." Blake hears her words, and his eye twitches slightly. What a wake-up call, he thinks to himself. She's never seen a man's body before? Am I not a man to her? His inner frustration is palpable, yet his expression remains stoic, save for the faint grumble that escapes under his breath. Blake, with an uncharacteristic pout, admits, "You see, all I have is a chubby tummy." His sincerity is both endearing and humorous as he gestures to himself. Edmund, now hastily getting dressed again after their earlier interaction, looks startled and exclaims, "A chubby tummy? What nonsense!" His firm tone carries a note of reassurance. Blake's eyes widen, sparkling with hope and excitement. "Really? Do you really think so?" His expression transforms into pure joy, a rare moment of unguarded happiness for the young prince. His innocent delight radiates, creating a warm and slightly comedic atmosphere. Edmund attempts to lighten the mood, pointing at Blake with a reassuring smile. "You don't have a chubby tummy. That's just cute baby fat." Blake, however, remains unimpressed, his expression showing no trace of comfort. Sadly, Edmund's words did not give Blake even the tiniest bit of consolation. The scene transitions to a quieter moment in a grand study. Amid stacks of books and papers, Emperor reads thoughtfully. "Anthea." A contemplative expression reveals deep thoughts lingering about the princess. The prince, wrapped in a towel after his bath, looks away shyly as Anthea tries to catch his attention. She says, "Oh, Your Highness," while he avoids eye contact, prompting her to ask, "Why won't you look me in the eye?" Anthea notices the prince covering his stomach with his arms during the bath. She thinks to herself, "During his bath, he kept hiding his stomach with his arms. I wonder why." Anthea cheerfully announces. The cauldron I ordered is arriving tomorrow. With it, I can cook lots of yummy things for you. However, the prince refuses, saying, No, I'm not going to eat anything. Determined, he declares. From now on, I'm going to train myself so I can look like a man, too. Surprised, Anthea reacts. Huh! She then thinks, My goodness! All this time, has he been thinking about what I said to the emperor? Realizing her words, she apologizes, saying, I'm so sorry. Of course, my dear husband is a man too. It just slipped my mind. Frustrated, the prince exclaims, How could that slip your mind? The prince flops onto the bed, declaring, I'm going to build up my abs too, and I won't eat until my chubby tummy is gone. Anthea, worried, tries to stop him, saying, Wait, don't get on the bed yet. You're still wet, she adds kindly. And please don't say that. I like you just the way you are, Anthea softly assures him. Besides, I love your cute BA. Before being interrupted by the prince snapping, I don't have baby fat. Anthea, surprised, wonders to herself, Wait a sec, how did he know I was going to say baby fat? Smiling mischievously, she decides, This leaves me no choice. The best way to handle a peeved child is, Anthea gleefully announces, Here goes. Tickle attack! As she dives in, catching the prince completely off guard. Laughing uncontrollably, he shouts, Ha ha ha! Stop it! She continues despite his pleas, and he cries out again, Anthea, stop! Stop tickling me! Ha ha ha! Finally, she stops, saying with a giggle, Okay. The princess gently pats the prince's back, expressing her affection. Your Highness, I like you so much. She embraces him warmly and continues, I want you to be healthy more than anything in the world, so please promise me that you'll eat. She reminds him of his earlier wish. Didn't you say you wanted to be taller than me? If so, you'll have to eat well. The setting sun casts a warm glow in the room, adding a sense of comfort to their exchange. The prince, with a bright smile, responds enthusiastically, All right then. I'll eat like a horse. His cheerful determination brings a smile to the princess's face, and she giggles softly, pleased with the outcome. It worked, she remarks to herself, satisfied with her success in encouraging him. The vibrant flowers surrounding them seem to reflect their light-hearted mood. As the warm sunlight streams through the elegant window, the princess reflects silently. It feels so good when he laughs, her thoughts accompanied by a soft glow, matching the tranquil beauty of the setting sun outside. In the dim light, a hand clad in dark gloves firmly tugs at a piece of clothing. A voice coldly utters a single word. Unhan. The atmosphere grows tense, shrouded in mystery and unease. The hooded figure removes their cloak, revealing a composed young man with sharp features and piercing violet eyes. Bowing slightly, he addresses the unseen monarch with deference, saying, Yes, your majesty. At your service, sire. The emperor inquires about the whereabouts of the crown prince and princess, asking, Did the crown prince and princess go back to their annex? The young man confirms, Yes, your majesty. After taking a bath, they both went to bed. The emperor reflects briefly, remarking, Since Anthea's arrival, the emperor observes Blake, noting, Blake has changed. He reflects on how Blake used to shrink away, as if wanting to disappear. He used to shrivel up into a ball before me, as if wanting to hide his existence. But now, the emperor sees a transformation. Now he stands tall, with his hand firmly holding on to his consort's. He notices Blake's once hollow eyes now gleaming brightly, filled with clarity and confidence. The emperor reviews Colin's report, noting, Colin's report is full of high praise for the princess. He finds this surprising, remarking, This is so unlike Colin, who is always calm to the point of being cold. Turning his attention to Unhan, the emperor inquires, Unhan, what was your impression of the crown princess? The emperor reflects, I've been away for a month, taking care of the door of darkness. How did she do so far? Has she seemed trustworthy? Unhan responds respectfully, Yes, your majesty. Her Highness is a good person. Following the emperor's orders, Unhan has been secretly guarding the crown prince over the past month. Emperor Thenston wanted to observe whether the courtiers would mistreat Blake in his absence. Additionally, as Thenston utilized the power of light during his campaign, Unhan was tasked with aiding the prince in case Blake's curse grew stronger. As time went on, Unhan began to drift from his original mission and found himself focusing on Princess Anthea. He observed her beauty, intelligence, and kindness, which made him wonder if his own life could change if someone like her were by his side. The emperor remarks with surprise, I didn't expect you to speak well of her as well. In response, Unhan looks at him and calmly asks, What is it that you fear, Your Majesty? The Emperor smiles and says, Actually, this is just perfect. Reflecting for a moment, his expression softens as he quietly adds, It's been so long since I've seen him laugh. A grand view of the castle is shown, followed by an excited exclamation of, Tada! The lid of a large black cauldron is revealed, and it is introduced as a Korean cauldron called gamasot. Blake, looking surprised, remarks, I've never seen anything like it. As everyone gathers around the cauldron, a comment is made. The princess has a deep understanding of Oriental culture. Another voice enthusiastically adds, Your Highness is a genius. This sentiment is echoed by others, with Blake agreeing. I agree. Anthea is a genius. Anthea, feeling both embarrassed and proud, giggles softly. Ah, please, stop flattering me, everyone. With a cheerful smile, she announces, I feel generous today. Why don't I cook dinner for all of you? She adds with excitement. I'll make you the best meal you've had in years. The group beams at her suggestion, delighted by her enthusiasm. One of the maids protests. Your Highness, no! We could never allow you to cook. Anthea interrupts with a reassuring smile. It's okay. You can all help me. Blake's eyes light up as he exclaims, Wow! Then can I help too? Anthea beams at him and replies enthusiastically, Of course! It would be an honor! Colin and his subordinates approach with respect, greeting the Crown Prince as the light of our empire. Anthea is also acknowledged with a warm blessing of our empire. Their formal demeanor sets a tone of reverence as they bow before the royal pair. Blake questions the situation as Colin addresses Anthea with a greeting, stating he carries the Emperor's greetings and a letter for the princess. Anthea, taken aback, expresses surprise at the unexpected gesture. Colin hands Anthea a letter bearing the imperial seal, which immediately catches her attention. She wonders if it relates to her behavior the previous day. Colin further informs her that the Emperor has also sent gifts, leaving Anthea astonished and curious. Colin formally presents the gifts sent by the Emperor to Anthea and Blake. As the colorful and beautifully wrapped packages are revealed, Anthea looks surprised, and Blake wonders if there might have been a mistake due to the extravagant display. The gifts continue to stack up, leaving both of them in awe and confusion. Colin assures Anthea that there is no mistake, emphasizing that all the gifts were personally sent by the Emperor for her. While flexing his confidence in delivering the Emperor's wishes, Anthea, overwhelmed, questions why she would receive such generosity. Her thoughts wander, hilariously considering if her compliment about the Emperor's abs played a role. Quickly dismissing the idea, she slaps her cheeks to regain composure, firmly deciding, There's no way. Anthea gracefully thanks Colin, assuring him that she will meet the Emperor at the appointed time. Afterward, as her hair is elegantly braided, her attendant announces, All done, Princess Anthea. She gazes into the mirror, looking radiant and poised, framed by a backdrop of blooming flowers, embodying her regal charm. As Anthea steps into view, her attendants are awestruck, exclaiming, Wow, so beautiful! Hans reminds her, Your Highness, it is time for you to go. Turning to Blake, she asks with a smile, Do I look okay? Blake, completely stunned by her elegance, blushes deeply, unable to find the words to respond. Blake exclaims, Absolutely! You look so pretty! His enthusiasm grows as he repeats, You're so pretty, Anthea! Anthea smiles warmly and responds, Thank you. I'll be right back. As she begins to leave, Blake encourages her, Okay, good luck! While watching her with admiration, the Emperor sits gracefully in a sunlit greenhouse, sipping tea from a beautifully ornate cup. The delicate aroma of flowers fills the air as sunlight streams through the glass, illuminating the tranquil surroundings. The Emperor, dressed in his regal attire, sits amidst a lush garden filled with blooming red roses. He gently sets down his teacup with a clink and gazes thoughtfully at the vibrant scenery, letting out a contemplative "Hm." The sunlight filters through the glass dome of the elegant greenhouse, illuminating the sparkling fountain and vibrant flowers surrounding a serene pond with floating lilies. The sound of footsteps echoes softly as Anthea enters, her delicate figure framed by the intricate architecture and radiant blooms. The soft click-clack of her heels signals her graceful approach through the enchanting space. Anthea gracefully approaches the Emperor, seated at an ornate table amidst the greenhouse's vibrant beauty. She performs a polite curtsy, her voice filled with warmth as she greets him. Good morning to your majesty, great light of our empire. The emperor gestures for Anthea to sit, his voice calm yet commanding. Have a seat, she responds respectfully. Yes, your majesty, and takes her place at the table. As he sips his tea, he compliments her attire. The dress becomes you. Anthea smiles warmly, expressing her gratitude. Thank you for the beautiful gifts, your majesty. I particularly love the golden ball you sent. With a slight glimmer in his eye, the emperor inquires. Do you like gold? Anthea hesitates at the emperor's question about gold, thinking, why is he asking if I like gold? I just mentioned the golden ball. Hello, I'm still 10 years old, she answers with a polite smile. No, not exactly. I like it because Prince Blake and I can play with it together. The emperor's gaze sharpens slightly as he pauses, then asks pointedly. Do you care about the crown prince? Without missing a beat, Anthea responds firmly. Well, of course. He is my husband. The emperor sips his tea and mutters. How could anyone like that child? Anthea, unfazed, replies confidently. May I answer your majesty with a question of my own? She smiles softly and continues. How could anyone not? The emperor looks distant as he confesses. Many people despise him, Anthea responds thoughtfully. Such people are probably misled by false rumors of the curse. Her voice softens as she adds, Your Majesty, I can tell that you love your son. Her words seem to stir something in the emperor, as he gazes at her intently. The emperor sets his teacup down, his tone firm. You are being presumptuous, he states, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. He is the successor of the curse. Anthea meets his gaze steadily, her voice unwavering. Before that, he is your son. Her words linger in the air, their weight undeniable. The emperor's expression softens just slightly, as he responds. You seem quite certain that I love that child. Why is that? Anthea smiles confidently, her voice light but firm. Well, if you hated your son, you wouldn't be sending his wife all these gifts, the emperor replied. The gifts are simply compensation for the way you handled the Marquis Hamel incident. His tone is measured, but his gaze lingers on her, thoughtful and slightly probing. Anthea chuckles softly, her bright demeanor unwavering. You also forgave me for my impertinence yesterday, she says with a playful glint in her eyes. The emperor raises a brow, his tone pointed but not unkind. So you are aware your behavior yesterday was inappropriate? Anthea tilts her head, a sheepish smile gracing her lips. I was so flustered yesterday that I can't quite recall everything. The emperor's lips curl into a subtle smirk. How impertinent! Anthea giggles, her laughter light and infectious, softening the atmosphere between them. The emperor gestures towards the ornate tea table adorned with an array of exquisite pastries and delicacies. Princess, let's have some tea, he invites with a calm yet commanding tone. Anthea's eyes widen at the delightful spread, sparkling with joy. Wow! Thank you, your majesty! She exclaims, her hands clasped in excitement as she takes a seat, her sweet smile radiating gratitude. Anthea carefully pokes at the dessert with her fork before taking a small bite. Her face lights up instantly. This is delicious! She exclaims with delight, her voice brimming with excitement. The emperor, observing her reaction, asks in a composed tone, Is it to your liking? His gaze remains steady, intrigued by her enthusiasm as she eagerly continues to enjoy the treat. As Anthea continues savoring the dessert, Anthea comments thoughtfully, Prince Blake would like this too. She delicately places her spoon back on the saucer. A flicker of warmth crosses his face. I'll have some sent over to the crown prince, he adds, his tone calm but sincere. Anthea's eyes light up at his words, and a delighted smile spreads across her face. Really? She beams, her joy evident as the thought of Blake enjoying the treat alongside her brings her happiness. Anthea's bright eyes meet the emperor's as she exclaims with heartfelt gratitude. Thank you, your majesty! The emperor offers a small, approving smile, his expression softening momentarily. The serene atmosphere of the garden envelopes them as they sit across from each other, surrounded by blooming flowers and bathed in sunlight. The gentle warmth of the moment reflects the subtle bond forming between them over their shared tea. The emperor sets his teacup down with a graceful motion and remarks, I hear you have a deep knowledge of Oriental culture. Anthea, caught off guard, blinks in surprise as a thought flits through her mind. He's done some research on me. Well, it would be even stranger if he'd had no interest in me whatsoever. A small smile accompanies her words as she continues. You flatter me, sir. I am quite curious about the cultures of other nations. The emperor, his expression as composed as ever, acknowledges her curiosity. I'm sure it wasn't easy for you to obtain information about the East, he comments, his voice carrying a hint of intrigue. Anthea's thoughts race as she considers her answer, realizing the Emperor's sharp intellect wouldn't easily accept a simplistic explanation. If I say I read books about the Orient in the Valencia Estate's library, most people would probably believe me. But the Emperor is too smart to fall for that. I mean, how much knowledge could a 10-year-old girl have about the Far East? A sly smile spreads across her face as she decides to share something unique. Rising from her seat with the light rustle of her dress, she steps down gracefully and looks at the Emperor. Well, I have a little secret that I'll divulge only to you, Your Majesty. The Emperor watches her with a mix of intrigue and amusement, curious about what the clever princess has up her sleeve. Anthea leans in close to the Emperor, her soft voice carrying a playful yet confident tone. Sir, I'm actually, she begins, letting the moment linger just enough to pique his curiosity. The Emperor raises an eyebrow, intrigued but maintaining his composure. With a mischievous glint in her eyes, she whispers, Gifted in languages. Her words hang in the air, emphasized by her boldness. The Emperor's expression shifts slightly, his intrigue deepening as he processes her statement. Anthea steps back, a proud smile lighting up her face, her confidence shining through as she stands before him. The Emperor's gaze sharpens at Anthea's claim. Gifted in languages? He repeats, his tone carrying a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Yes, Your Majesty, Anthea replies brightly, her confidence unwavering. I can understand languages from all over the world. The Emperor studies her carefully, his expression unreadable. Is that so? He asks, his voice even, though his intrigue is evident. Anthea beams, her voice ringing with certainty. Yes, father, she affirms, her green eyes sparkling with a mix of pride and sincerity. The Emperor's sharp expression softens into mild astonishment. What did you just call me? He asks, his tone tinged with disbelief. Anthea turns to face him, her smile mischievous yet innocent. I married your son, she states matter-of-factly. So you're my father-in-law. Father for short. A giggle escapes her as her playful words hang in the air, leaving the Emperor momentarily speechless. The Emperor nods slightly, his voice measured and calm. Oh yes, of course, he says, his piercing gaze softening. I'm sure you have many difficulties due to your sudden betrothal. He straightens, his tone taking on an air of authority. Come to me if there is anything you need, he offers, the words carrying both a regal command and an unexpected gentleness. Anthea's face brightens, her emerald eyes shimmering with gratitude. Thank you, she responds sincerely, her smile as radiant as the sunlit garden surrounding them. It would be my pleasure, the Emperor adds, his composed demeanor unyielding, yet a subtle warmth lingers in his words. Anthea stands proudly as she presents the meal she has prepared. Tada! She exclaims with enthusiasm. Today's menu is doenjang jjigae. Her excitement radiates as she gestures to the table filled with deliciously crafted dishes. I also made mushroom egg rolls, she adds with a smile. The table is a feast for the eyes, adorned with vibrant flowers and appetizing food that gleams under the light. A note on the side clarifies. Asterisk doenjang jjigae, fermented bean paste soup, providing context for the unique dish. Blake and the others look on, their expressions a mix of surprise and awe. Wow! They exclaim in unison, their admiration for Anthea's effort shining brightly in their eyes. Anthea cheerfully invites everyone to the meal, her voice bright and welcoming. Please help yourselves, she says, gesturing to the spread of dishes before them. Blake takes a bite and his eyes light up. Anthea, everything is so yummy, he exclaims, his enthusiasm contagious. The others join in with their praise, one of them declaring with astonishment, Princess, you are a culinary genius! Anthea blushes at their compliments, her modesty shining through. Is it really that good? She asks, a shy smile on her lips. As they dig in, she gently reminds, Be careful. It's hot. Her voice full of care and concern. The atmosphere is filled with warmth, laughter, and the shared joy of a lovingly prepared meal. Anthea offers a small bowl with a warm smile. After you're done, try this scorched rice water. It has a nice nutty flavor, she explains, her tone brimming with excitement. Blake tilts his head curiously. Scorched rice water? He asks, his crimson eye widening in intrigue. Yes. Anthea nods enthusiastically. First, you toast rice until it's nice and crunchy. Then you boil that in water. Her explanation is simple yet carries the charm of her earnestness. Blake beams at her. Anthea, if you made it, I'm sure it will be delicious, he says with unshakable confidence, making her cheeks blush faintly. Meanwhile, Unhan silently observes the cheerful scene from the shadows. His expression is unreadable, but the faintest hint of a smile flickers across his lips before he looks away. Unhan clenches his hand into a fist, his violet eyes darting away as a faint blush dusts his cheeks. Not again, he mutters under his breath, his voice barely audible. His heart races uncontrollably as he grips his cloak tighter, as if to shield himself from the warmth blooming within him. I must control myself, he whispers with a determined look, yet the heat on his face betrays his struggle. Hidden in the shadows, he fights an internal battle, unwilling to let his emotions surface. Unhan, known as the Emperor's Shadow, was a figure cloaked in secrecy, his existence hidden from the world. As a child, he was wounded by an arrow and hunted through the forest, his life hanging by a thread. Just as despair consumed him, the Emperor appeared and saved him. From that moment, Unihan dedicated his life to the Emperor, becoming his loyal and silent shadow. His missions were always executed flawlessly, his presence a whisper in the dark. Beneath the moonlit sky, the castle stood as a quiet witness to the unwavering devotion of the shadow who never failed. Unhan finds himself in a quiet struggle. The aroma of the meal in front of him is both alluring and tormenting. He knows better than to indulge, yet his resolve falters as hunger gnaws at his core. The pot's design catches his attention. He recognizes it as a gamisot, its craftsmanship elegant and precise, designed to lock in flavor. His curiosity piqued, Unhan hesitates before leaning closer. He thinks to himself, meals like these are for those who live in the light. Not for me. But his hunger wins. Slowly, almost reverently, he moves to lift the lid. Steam billows out, carrying the rich, enticing scent of the dish within. His mouth waters as he gazes at the bubbling contents. It's just one taste, he convinces himself, almost defensively. Reaching forward, he gently slides the lid aside, his movements careful yet deliberate. His hand lingers over the pot as the steam envelopes his face, a moment of indulgence he never allows himself. Finally, surrendering to his craving, he reaches out and grips the pot. I'll just take this back with me. Just this once. Unhan gulps nervously, the weight of his impulsive decision to take the gamisot suddenly bearing down on him. The sound of a rustle nearby snaps him out of his thoughts, and he freezes, his breath caught in his throat. Startled, his eyes widen as he swiftly turns, scanning the surroundings. Did someone see me? The thought sends a shudder down his spine. He grips the pot tighter, his mind racing. I'm in huge trouble. I have to hide. Anthea steps outside, her gaze landing on the gamisot. She notices something unusual. The gamisot lid is open? She wonders aloud, tilting her head in confusion. Curiosity piqued, she steps closer, her vibrant green eyes narrowing as she inspects the scene. How strange, she mutters, examining the pot more closely. Then, a sudden realization flashes across her face as something catches her eye. Ah! She exclaims, spotting a sleek black cat with piercing purple eyes sitting nearby. A cat? She whispers in surprise, her expression softening into a delighted smile. You are so cute! She coos, leaning down to gently pick up the mysterious feline. As she lifts the cat, she chuckles playfully, holding it close. Little kitty, by any chance, did you lift the gamisot lid? She teases, her tone warm and light-hearted. The cat responds with a small wriggle in her grasp, adding an air of mystery to the already peculiar moment. The little black cat lets out a heart-melting meow, its big purple eyes glistening with tears that seem ready to fall. Anthea gasps softly, taken aback by the adorable sight. Oh dear! You must be hungry! She exclaims with genuine concern, her voice warm and kind. I'll get you some milk, she offers as she gently strokes its fur. The cat stares intently, tilting its head slightly as if understanding her words. Anthea pauses, a playful thought crossing her mind. Huh! Would you rather have scorched rice water? She asks, her tone teasing but thoughtful. I wonder if cats can eat that, she murmurs, tapping her chin. She ponders for a moment, then chuckles, deciding, maybe I'll feed her just a little bit. The cat's enthusiastic. Yes, yes. Meows and soft purring seem to confirm her choice. Cuddling the tiny creature close, Anthea giggles, her radiant smile filled with affection. Kitty's so cute, she gushes, utterly charmed by her unexpected companion. The peaceful moment glows with her warmth, leaving an impression of pure joy and tenderness. Anthea places a small dish of milk on the ground, her cheerful voice calling out, "Kitty, here you go!" The little black cat eagerly approaches, its tiny tongue lapping up the milk with soft lap sounds. Watching the cat drink, Anthea's expression softens with concern. "You must have been really hungry. Did someone forget to feed you?" she wonders aloud. She sits down near the feline, her hands resting on her lap as she observes the cat with a mix of empathy and affection. The cat continues to slurp away at the milk, its tail twitching contentedly. Anthea giggles, leaning closer. "You must have such a kind master," she muses, stroking its sleek black fur. Then, a playful idea lights up her eyes. "If you don't have an owner, I'd love to keep you," she declares, pulling the cat into a gentle hug. Rubbing her cheek against the cat's soft fur, she giggles. "Hee hee, such soft fur!" The warmth of the moment fills the air, but the cat's violet eyes blink with an unreadable expression, as though it's pondering something deeply. Just then, a familiar voice calls out, "Anthea, what are you doing?" Blake's curious tone echoes from the doorway. He steps closer, his crimson eye widening slightly as he spots the black cat in her arms. Anthea looks up excitedly as Blake approaches, holding the small black cat close. "I found a black cat! Isn't she cute?" she exclaims, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. The cat sits calmly in her arms, blinking with an almost regal demeanor. Blake raises an eyebrow, glancing at the cat. "Do you have to hold it like that?" he asks, his tone a mix of curiosity and concern. Anthea, unfazed, beams and says, "She's so nice and gentle. I think she likes me." She holds the cat a little closer, her expression one of pure joy, as hearts practically float around her. Blake, however, corrects her, pointing out, "That cat's a he." Anthea tilts her head, intrigued. "Oh, are you sure?" she questions, looking down at the cat with newfound curiosity. Blake nods firmly. "Yes." Anthea's curiosity gets the better of her, and she begins to check. However, the moment she moves, the black cat lets out a loud meow and darts out of her arms with a sudden burst of energy. Startled, both Anthea and Blake watch as the cat disappears in a flash, leaving them in a stunned silence. Anthea lets out a soft sigh as she watches the black cat disappear into the distance. "Oh, Kitty ran away before I could see anything," she murmurs, her shoulders drooping slightly. Blake stands beside her, watching her reaction, his crimson eye glinting in the sunlight. "It was so nice and cute," Anthea continues, her tone wistful. Anthea whispers to herself with a hopeful smile, "I hope I can see it again." The grand castle looms under the bright sun. Inside, the Emperor sits at his desk, his sharp crimson gaze lifting as Anthea enters. His voice is cool and commanding. "What do you want?" Unfazed, Anthea steps closer with a small grin. "Your Majesty told me to come visit you any time," she replies with a polite curtsy, a playful tone in her voice. "Ahem," he says, clearing his throat, his expression softening ever so slightly. "I didn't expect you to come see me so soon. So, what brings you here?" the Emperor asks. Anthea steps closer, holding a tray with a steaming cup and a warm smile. "The Gamisot cauldron I ordered arrived today," she announces cheerfully, carefully pouring tea from a delicate teapot. "I made you some scorched rice tea with it. Would you like to try some?" The Emperor observes her for a moment before accepting the cup, his expression as composed as ever. He brings the tea to his lips, taking a slow, measured sip. His crimson eyes glimmer faintly as he comments, "What an interesting flavor." "Ah," she says nervously. "Is it not to your liking, sir?" It's quite nice," he remarks gently and adds, "You are skilled at brewing tea. Do you really like it?" she asks, her voice filled with excitement. "If you do, I'll make it often for you." "I'd like that," he replies, his voice calm yet genuine. The room is bathed in the soft glow of the chandelier above, its golden light adding to the warmth of the moment. As Anthea stands there, still glowing from his words, the Emperor speaks once more. "Come visit any time, Anthea," he says. Anthea collapses onto her bed with a sigh, her long day catching up to her. "What a long day!" she exclaims, staring up at the ceiling. Her mind races through the day's events, a smile forming as she recalls. "The Emperor showered me with gifts, then invited me to tea," she muses happily. "I cooked with my new cauldron, and met a cute kitty cat." Her eyes sparkle at the memory. It was so adorable. She giggles. Suddenly, she feels a hand gently touch hers, startling her. Looking down, she sees a familiar bracelet. "Oh, Your Highness?" she asks, her tone surprised. What are you doing? She asks, her voice soft with curiosity. Blake crawls closer. A single sound escapes his lips, almost instinctively, meow. Anthea looks at Blake and says, Prince Blake? Blake hugs her tightly and responds, Anthea, you seem to only like cats, so I want to be a cat too. Holding her close, he continues, My dear wife, you have me. Why would you need another pet? With a playful smile, he adds, I'll be your bunny, kitty, and puppy too. Don't go looking for other animals. Anthea blushes and, flustered, says, Your Highness. Blake tilts his head saying meow. Anthea looks at Blake with wide eyes, clearly amazed, and exclaims, My prince! She then joyfully embraces him, saying, You are just too adorable! While giving him a big bear hug. Blake, feeling her affection, softly chuckles. Hee hee! A servant hands a stack of documents to Richard, saying, These are the reports from your agents in the imperial court. Richard reads through the reports and becomes increasingly agitated, thinking to himself, How can this be? He notes that today, the Emperor has sent Anthea gourmet ingredients from the Far East. He recalls that yesterday, it was dresses, jewelry, and mana stones. Frustrated, he mutters to himself, Not a day goes by without the Emperor sending gifts to Anthea. Richard sits on his ornate chair, deep in thought. He ponders, Anthea, how exactly did you win His Majesty's favor? He recalls his efforts to gain the Emperor's trust, reflecting, Emperor Theniston is the only person I respect in this kingdom. I did everything I could to attract his attention, but I was unable to open his heart. He was like an impenetrable fortress. He recalls Anthea's surprising accomplishments, thinking, First, she captured the monster crown prince's heart. Then she went ahead and gained the Emperor's trust. What's going on with Anthea? How can anyone change like this so suddenly? Clutching his head, he groans, I have a headache. Richard leans back, overwhelmed by his thoughts. He laments, If I'd known things would turn out this way, I would have accepted her affections. He recalls how Anthea used to adore him and questions, Why this drastic change after marrying that monster? How can she be so cold to me now? Clutching his head in frustration, he reflects, That makes me want her even more. Forbidden fruit is always more delectable. His expression hardens as he resolves, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make her mine. Richard enters the room and greets, Father, you called for me? His father sits behind his desk, a stern expression on his face. Without a word, his father picks up a ceremonial seal and hurls it at Richard, who narrowly dodges it. The seal shatters a vase behind him. His father shouts angrily, What the hell have you done? He slams his fist on the table and continues, The Emperor has sent Princess Anthea gifts again today, and the princess frequents the imperial palace as if it were her own home. His voice grows louder as he adds, I hear they will even be going to the grand ball together during the festival of the seal. His frustration fills the room as Richard stands silently, listening to his father's outburst. Festival of the Seal is the most important holiday in the Empire, commemorating the Emperor's sealing of the Door of Darkness and his safe return to the kingdom. Emissaries from all over the world will gather in the imperial ballroom for the grand event. It is noted that if they witness the Emperor and Princess Anthea walking hand in hand, the political implications would be immense. Richard thinks that emissaries will notice the Emperor's fondness for the Crown Princess, and this will naturally elevate the Crown Prince's status. The son, standing in his father's office, asks, Is that so, father? The father angrily responds, mentioning Marquis Hamel's imprisonment, and criticizing his son's failure in all missions, calling him an incompetent fool. He then blames his son's failures on his uncouth slave blood. Richard remains silent before suggesting, There is a way to turn the tables, sir. His father asks, What exactly do you have in mind? Richard replies, We must bring the Crown Princess to our side. He elaborates that Princess Anthea has an unsatisfied longing for her father's love and, without a doubt, will obey her father's orders. His father considers this, mentioning, the Count of Valencia, and then smirks, thinking, This just might work. Anthea's father angrily says, You called me all the way here for a simple common cold? Anthea apologizes softly, saying, I'm sorry, father. It was my mistake, but I was feeling so sick. I was in so much pain. The father, filled with disdain, shouts, You are a disgrace to the family. Your bare mother bargained off her wretched family with her father's wealth. Just thinking about it makes me shudder. Anthea, trembling, replies, I'm so sorry. Her father coldly declares, Sorry doesn't even cut it. I just hope for your death. He continues with venom, The only way you can help the Valencia family is by disappearing from this earth, Anthea, kneeling, repeatedly says. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Tears drip onto the floor as she whispers. Father, please forgive me, a voice suddenly calls out. Aunt Chie. She wakes up with a gasp, trembling and stunned, realizing it was all a nightmare. Blake asks Anthea if she is all right. Anthea, still shaken, thinks that it was just a dream, thinking to herself that it felt so real and vivid. She recalls the nightmare of her father's harsh words, feeling the weight of it in her heart. She thinks, this must have been fragments of Anthea's memory. Her memories appeared in my dream. Blake was concerned. It's all my fault. You're having bad dreams because of me. Anthea gently hugs him. Anthea, finding solace in his embrace, softly says, Prince Blake, I'm so glad you're here by my side, holding on to him for support. She said, can we stay like this for a little while? The next day, Anthea's father was having lunch with a noble. He said, I heard the emperor is keeping all the renowned couturiers in town busy making dresses for the princess. My daughter is throwing tantrums because she can't find a decent gown anymore, Anthea's father replied. Yes, of course, the noble added. It's the talk of the town. Lady Anthea is lucky, so it's true that the emperor has even purchased a pink diamond for her? Her father was surprised but still complied. Yes, indeed, he thinks to himself. What the hell is he talking about? This is the first time I'm hearing any of this. Ever since I sent Anthea to wed the monster crown prince in Diana's place, I haven't heard a word from her. He clenches his fist thinking. Is he saying that the useless girl has attracted the favor of the emperor? At last, you may be of value to the Valencia family. Anthea, my girl. Suddenly a servant informed. Count Valencia, the Duke of Casil is here to see you. After he entered the room to meet with the Duke greeted him. Long time no see, Count Valencia, her father replied. My dear Duke, it's an honor to see you again, he thinks in his mind. Arnold Casil, you used to look down on me and treat me like a dog, but now that the Emperor thinks highly of Anthea, you want to kiss my derriere? The Duke said. You are looking very well indeed. While sitting, the Count replied. Obviously, I am pleased that His Majesty holds my daughter in such high esteem, the Duke said. I see you have a fondness for your daughter too. The Count chuckled, saying, she has always been such an obedient child. She would even risk her life for me, I'm sure of it. The Duke picks up the teacup and said, you have raised her well. Is your younger daughter as well bred as her older sister? While feeling proud, the Count said, oh, Diana excels her sister in every aspect. She is my pride and joy, the Duke asked. If that is true, I would love to have her as my daughter-in-law. The Count gets startled. You want my Diana to wed your son? He thinks. If Diana is wed to the Casil family, she could one day be the queen consort, and I would be the father-in-law of the emperor. He grinned thinking about that. The Duke said, for this to take place, I must check on her education and upbringing, of course, the Count said. You may examine her immediately. Meanwhile, Anthea remembered. Sorry? Sorry doesn't even cut it. Just drop dead. The only way you can help the Valencia family is by disappearing from this earth, she thinks. I read about this in the novel, but it feels completely different to experience it firsthand. How could he inflict such verbal abuse on a mere child? I can't stop thinking about it. Poor Anthea, how you must have suffered. How deep your despair must have been on the day you jumped into the icy water. The person who killed Anthea was none other than her own father, the Count of Valencia. He may not have held a weapon, but he was the real murderer. The maid came and informed her. Your Highness, the Count of Valencia has come to see you, Anthea replied. Huh? The Count of Valencia? The maid asked. Shall I escort him in? Anthea thinks for a moment, and then said, yes, take him to the drawing room. Her father, who is waiting for her, thinks, detestable girl. How can she keep her own father waiting like this? She needs a refresher course in manners. As the clock was ticking, he thinks, I've been waiting for 55 minutes. Anthea arrived at last. As the door opened, her father quickly turns and burst out. What the hell have you been doing until? He wasn't able to complete as he was stunned by how Anthea looks. He looks at her and thinks, she is bedecked with jewels, and look at her dignified, confident stature. Is that child Anthea? Really? Anthea arrived with her maid and guard. She asked, what brings you here today? Her father said. What impertinence! Is that how you're going to greet your father? After observing, he thinks, receiving the emperor's favor has made her arrogant. I have to show her her place. The maid alongside Anthea said, Sir, please show respect and honor to Crown Princess. You bloody maid! How dare you interrupt the father of the Crown Princess? Anthea's wasn't able to control his anger. Anthea protested. Please address my staff with the respect they deserve. Her father was in disbelief. What? She continued. If you're going to be uncivilized, please leave. Her father raised his hand in anger, saying, Why you? Just because you're now the Crown Princess, you think you can, Anthea replied. Count Valencia, perhaps you have not yet heard about what happened to Marquis Hamel? Her father froze as he heard that. Her father remembered. The Marquis attempted to slap Anthea and ended up losing his title and his hand. He shudders thinking and withdrew his hand. Anthea has changed. The naive girl starving for affection is gone. Now, as Crown Princess, she commands the presence of the most powerful woman in the Empire. He quickly reverted. Anthea, pardon me. I lost my composure for a moment there. But why are you so cold to your father? Anthea commanded. Leave me at once, and don't come to the palace of the Crown Prince ever again, she shouted. I shall let this go today. But if something like this ever happens again, I shall not be so forgiving. After that, the guards came and dragged her father away. Yes, he was being dragged away, he protested. Anthea, get your hands off me. I'm not finished yet. He called for her again, but the guards took him away. Anthea fumed silently. He must have heard rumors of the Emperor favoring me. He was trying to frighten me and then use me as his puppet. What scum of the earth! I don't want to see him ever again. Although the Count had been dragged out of the palace, he continued sending letters. Of course, Anthea didn't bother to read any of his rubbish correspondence. She had more important things to worry about. Soon, she would have to show her presence at the Festival of the Seal. As she was practicing, she thinks, I am concerned about court manners, of course, but the biggest problem is dancing, she admitted nervously. Right foot, left foot, ouch, she yelped as she stumbled. Anthea! Your Highness, are you all right? Her attendants cried, worried sick. Anthea thinks, this is so embarrassing. I wish I could just disappear. I'm fine, Anthea replied, disheveled and flustered. The instructor suggested, Your Highness, perhaps it would be better to end the dance lessons for today. She accepted. Yes, please. That's a good idea. She sighed in relief. Later, Anthea found solace in her feline friend. Here, kitty, kitty! Come here! So cute! She cooed, bending to pet the cat. She picks her up and hugs her, saying, I'm so glad to see you again. Kitty, you saw me fall, didn't you? You should have started with your right foot. The cat seemed to convey with its meows. I have no talent for dancing. So sad, she lamented. The cat meowed meow, meow, conveying, Princess, don't forget right foot goes first. Anthea understands the opposite. Really? You think I'm getting the hang of it? Practice makes perfect? The cat meowed again, conveying, Gah, whatever, think what you want, Anthea then said. Since you've given me such strong moral support, I'll treat you to some scorched rice water. Would you like that? As the cat lapped up its treat, Prince Blake arrived with a cheerful, Anthea, there you are. Your Highness, did you enjoy your dueling lessons with Lord Edmund? Anthea asked. Yes, I did. But why is he still here? Blake questioned, noticing the cat. Anthea asked, Prince Blake, why are you so mean to this cat? Can't you be a little nicer to this sweetie? She scolded him. Humph, Blake hesitated. No, I don't want to be nice to him. Blake raised an eyebrow. Am I not man enough for you? Blake teased nervously. Was this cat male? Anthea wondered. Blake pouted. So sad, don't you love your little bunny wabbit anymore? Of course I love my little bunny, Anthea blurted, flustered. Would you prefer that I be your little kitty? Blake said playfully, mimicking a meow. Oh, my God, Anthea thought, trembling. How can anyone be so cute? Blushing, she stammered. Dear husband, I love you whoever you are and whatever you do. While Blake grinning mischievously, Anthea said, Oh, by the way, I have a little favor to ask you. Sure, say anything. Your wish is my command, Blake replied confidently. Anthea said, Prince Blake, you don't even know what I'm going to say. What if I ask for something really strange or nasty? Doesn't matter. I will grant my wife anything she desires, Blake said, beaming. Anthea grabbed his hand and asked, Then, could you teach me how to dance? I'd love to have the first dance with my husband. Blake was stunned for a moment, then he said, All right then, I'll help you. Anthea sighed. I was planning to ask for help after improving my dancing skills a little, But after 10 days of no progress, I had no choice, Blake said. It's okay. As they gets ready to practice, Anthea said. I might step on your toes, she warned, Blake assured. That's okay too. It doesn't hurt even if you step on my toes because you're light as a feather, Anthea. Light as a feather? Anthea repeated, blushing slightly. Blake grinned. Of course. Trust me. Well then, shall we begin? Anthea asked, offering her hand to Blake, noticing his cheeks turn pink. You're blushing, Anthea asked. Blake gets flustered. What? No, I'm not. Then they clasped their hand and started dancing. Blake yelped as Anthea stomped on his foot. Sorry! She cried. Ack! She stumbled and fell on Blake, Anthea overwhelmed with embarrassment. It's like I have 2 left feet, she whimpered, trembling. Blake reassured her. It's only your first time. Don't worry, you'll pick it up in no time. When did you learn to dance? You're so good at it, she asked, pouting slightly. I watched you during your lessons, Blake confessed with a playful grin. Anthea fell down. What? So unfair. You'll do a lot better if you just relax a bit, Blake suggested. They continued practicing for some time. Finally, they completed one song. We finally finished one song! And it's all thanks to you, Anthea said, relieved. You don't need to push yourself, Blake advised. The Emperor is far better at dancing than me, so don't worry too much about making mistakes, Anthea asked. Do you really think so? He said. Of course. Besides, everyone will be too busy looking at you to notice your feet. Anthea giggles after hearing that. Blake continued. You're going to be radiant. They'll all be mesmerized by you, Blake said warmly. I want to attend too, Blake admitted wistfully. You'll be able to attend as well after you come of age, Anthea assured him. When that day finally comes, I'm going to be the one to escort you, Blake said with a smile. Anthea replied. I look forward to it. Father, guess what I've prepared for you today? Anthea asked, placing a dish before the Emperor. Looking at the dish suspiciously, he said, You sure are brave to so openly try to assassinate your Emperor, he teased. She cheerfully said. This isn't poisoned. As he picks up a spoonful, he said. That's what they all say. He gulped it down and Anthea asked. How is it? The Emperor remarked. It's delicious, Anthea sighed with relief. She said. I'm glad it's to your Majesty's liking. I was worried you might not enjoy it, the Emperor said without hesitation. How could I refuse when my daughter-in-law prepared it especially for me? You just said I was trying to poison you, Anthea retorted. Quickly, the Emperor replied. I would have eaten it even if it was poisoned. Isn't he a little too obsessed with his daughter-in-law? Anthea thought to herself, bewildered. Your Majesty should not kid about such matters, Anthea interjected. The Crown Prince would be very upset if your Majesty were to ever be ill, the Emperor said. What have I done to warrant such love from him? I would be grateful if he didn't despise me. He was looking worried and lost in thoughts, Anthea said. Your Imperial Majesty is the light of the Empire. Your Majesty's health should be of the highest priority for the sake of the Crown Prince as well as the people. Then she interrogated. I heard from Lord Colin that you had trouble sleeping last night, the Emperor countered. If you're going to continue nagging, you can leave now. After a while, the Emperor's gaze softened. Seeing as how you've treated me to a delicious meal, I shall give you a gift in return. I couldn't, Your Majesty. I've already received so much, Anthea protested. I shall build you a glass arboretum in the gardens at Amoria Castle, he declared. The Crown Prince's castle was old and dreary. Although the name Amoria is derived from the Latin word amor, meaning love, there was none of it left on its grounds. Come winter, the gardens were barren of any life. Right. I shall fill in the lake with soil and build the arboretum there, the Emperor decided. Anthea remembered. The lake in which I drowned, she said. If your Majesty is doing this because of me, there's no need. I fell into the lake by mistake because I was unfamiliar with the grounds. I will not be making that mistake ever again, Anthea reassured him. No. The Emperor's tone was firm. I must do something about the lake that put my daughter-in-law in harm's way. The Emperor's expressions were gloom. Anthea thought to herself. Isn't he taking this a bit too seriously? What did the lake ever do to him? Later Anthea relayed. His Majesty said he is going to fill in the lake with soil and build the arboretum in its place. Really? Excellent! Blake exclaimed. Anthea asked. Are you okay with the lake being gone? He stated. It's the lake that almost swallowed you whole. I'm happy to see it gone, Anthea insisted. But still, are you sure you won't miss it? Blake confirmed with a decisive thud as he closed the book. Yes. I want to be rid of it as soon as possible. Looking at him, Anthea mused. He really takes after his father when he's like this. It's not like the lake was out for blood. Then, it's decided. We're getting an arboretum, Anthea announced with a grin. Blake giggled. It's going to be huge if it's going to replace the lake. What would you like to plant in it? Anthea suggested. Cabbage. Cabbage? Blake was surprised. It's a vegetable from the east. They make a dish called kimchi with it, Anthea explained. Blake repeated the word in surprise. Kimchi? Anthea explained again. Yes. It's my favorite dish. But it might be too spicy for you, Blake declared. I can eat spicy food too. I don't think so. Maybe when you've grown up a little more, Anthea teased. I am grown up, he insisted, flinching. Of course you are. Anthea smiled, pinching his cheeks, thinking how adorable he was. She then asked, Is there a flower you wanted to plant? He answered. Yes. Roses, Anthea repeats. Roses? Blake replied. Yes. I want to plant red roses for you, Anthea. Anthea thinks to herself. A red rose means love. It's often given when one proposes marriage, Anthea thought, clenching her fists. Would it be right for me to take a red rose from Blake? After a few days, Anthea woke up thinking. It was finally the day of the ball. Anthea, are you leaving now? Blake asked, rubbing his eyes. She cheerfully replied. Yes. I'll be back soon. I know you're going to be great. Blake encouraged her. Anthea looks at him and thinks. Blake is always smiling, even when I was the only one to receive gifts from the Emperor, or had lessons on court protocol, and now, when I was the only one attending the ball, he always smiled at me without showing any disappointment. Have a great time today, Anthea, Blake said. Almost as if he believes my happiness is his own, she thought. After the servants prepared her, she said, Thank you. It must have been hard on you all to assist me so early in the morning. Not at all, Your Highness. We are honored to be at your service, her attendants replied. You look stunning. You will for sure be the center of everyone's attention today. Ha! Thank you. Anthea blushed. As he showed at the venue, the Emperor noticed her at the stairs. He greeted her. You look beautiful. And Your Majesty looks quite dapper as well. Anthea complimented the Emperor. You're just saying that, he responded, but there was a twinkle in his eye. While thinking, Anthea offered his arm, saying, Not at all. Would you mind giving me a pinch? The Emperor asked. A pinch? You look so handsome. I thought I was dreaming, Anthea exclaimed. Stop that, he scolded playfully. Shall we go? He asked, offering his hand. Yes, Father, Anthea replied, grasping the Emperor's hand, feeling a mixture of anticipation and nerves. Presenting His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor, and Her Imperial Highness, the Crown Princess. The announcement echoed across the Grand Hall, silencing the buzz of conversation as all eyes turned to the entrance. The gathered nobles greeted them with reverence. We are honored to meet His Imperial Majesty, the great light of the Empire, and Her Imperial Highness, the Crown Princess. A blessing to the Empire. Anthea's eyes flicked toward Richard, who was grinning strangely. What is with that weird smile? How many more ways can I reject this guy? She wondered as her gaze wandered. She looks towards the Emperor, thinking, the main character ought to be, at least in this league, or at least as cute as Blake. Her thoughts were interrupted when the Emperor asked, Is something the matter? She whispered to him. I think Your Majesty is the most handsome of everyone here, Anthea said, trying to mask her thoughts. The Emperor smirked. How very funny. The nobles whispered excitedly amongst themselves. Did you see that? His Majesty bent his knee, and he smiled. I've never seen His Majesty act that way, another murmured. Hearing the nobles chatter, Anthea thinks, they're shocked at him smiling? She looked towards the Emperor's face in shock. Just how aloof is he normally? Anthea noticed how quickly the chatter died down when the Emperor stopped smiling. She wondered, watching as his commanding presence silenced the room with a single look. The ceremony of the seal commenced. All the people bowed their heads. A servant presented a golden grail to the Emperor. The Emperor clasping grail in his hands in prayer. I owe this honor to the goddess of light and to the people of this empire, he declared. Anthea, lost in thought, wondered if he would ask her for a dance when the ceremony concluded. She thinks, it's probably really immature of me to still hope for my first dance to be with Blake. The Emperor turned to her after his speech. I wanted to have the first dance with my lovely daughter-in-law, but unfortunately, I'm afraid my dancing skills are a bit too rusty. Anthea blushed, Caught off guard by his unexpected comment, he announced, "Please enjoy the ball, as we offer up all in honor of the goddess of light." After that he sat down and Anthea calls him, "Your Majesty," he filled in. "Am I right in assuming you wanted to have your first dance with Blake?" "Yes," she admitted softly. She thinks inwardly, "It's like he read my mind." "Then I shall wait and share your second dance," he said, smiling warmly. "Thank you, Father," she replied, touched by his understanding. "No, thank you," he said, placing a gentle hand on her head. His warmth made her gasp. The nobles whispered in shock. "Did you see that? His Majesty patted her on the head, and he called her his lovely daughter-in-law." Hearing their chatter, Anthea thinks, "Just how serious does Dunstan normally act? You may not get to dance with Blake, but go on and enjoy your first ball as the crown princess," the Emperor encouraged. "Yes, Father," she said, her resolve strengthened. Anthea moved gracefully through the ballroom, meeting various nobles. Marquis Sheldon approached her, bowing respectfully. "Your Imperial Highness, I must say, you are truly a beautiful blessing to this empire." "Nice to meet you, Marquis Sheldon," she responded. "I've heard your son graduated as the salutatorian knight from the academy." "Congratulations." Anthea continued to converse with the court, offering congratulations to Countess Markion on the birth of her grandson. She had worked hard to memorize the names and accomplishments of the nobles, determined to leave a good impression. "If I had studied this hard in real life, I would have gone to an Ivy League school," she thought, amused at herself. Her debut to society went smoothly, and she conversed confidently with the court. "This should be enough to make a good impression of the Crown Princess Anthea, right?" she assured herself. Then she saw her father, Count Valencia. She looks towards them and thinks, "So that must mean the girl next to him. Diana!" Anthea smiled bitterly, hoping Diana was doing well. Before she could approach, Richard stepped forward with a smirk. "Your Imperial Highness, it's been a long time," he said smoothly. She felt annoyed. "Richard again." "Oh, hello?" Anthea replied, her annoyance barely concealed. "You've gotten more beautiful since I last saw you," Richard complimented her. "Your Imperial Highness, would you please do me the honor of your first dance? What's he up to?" Anthea thought as she looked at Richard. "Is he being serious?" The first dance of the Crown Princess should, of course, be with the Crown Prince himself. The other nobles, mindful of their status, had been careful not to overstep boundaries, but here Richard was, brazenly asking for a dance without hesitation. "Sorry, but I'm going to have to decline your request," Anthea said firmly. "There's no need to be embarrassed about your dancing skills," Richard replied smoothly. "I'll be sure to lead you." Anthea's thoughts whirled in disbelief. Does he think the Emperor refused to dance with me because of my subpar dancing skills? And even if that were true, how dare he bring it up in front of everyone? He really has no consideration for other, does he? Her expression hardened as she responded. "I do not wish to dance with anyone who is not as great as our Emperor himself." Gasps filled the hall. "Your Imperial Highness, there is none in this world greater than our Emperor," someone exclaimed, prompting murmurs of agreement. Another added, "You may never get to dance at all if you wait for someone like Emperor Dunstan. There is only one emperor like him on this earth." Anthea noticed Richard's confidence falter slightly. Looks like that hurt his ego a bit. "Well, at least I was being considerate." Nobles were laughing as Richard backed away. After that, Anthea went to terrace to get fresh air. She said to herself, "Phew! I can finally catch my breath," she thought. "I wonder what Blake is up to. This is the first time we've been apart for this long since I became Anthea." Her thoughts softened. "I miss my hubby bunny. I hope he's not crying because he missed me so." Meanwhile, on terrace adorned with soft drapes, a knock interrupted her solitude. "May I come in?" a soft, young voice asked. Anthea thinks, turning to the voice. A little girl's voice? Usually when the curtains are drawn on the terrace, most people would assume it's being occupied and would not disturb them. "The other terraces must all be full then," she said. "Please join me." Diana came from behind the curtain and called her. "Anthea." Anthea turned to see a familiar face. "Diana, you look beautiful tonight, Anthea," Diana said, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "You look like an angel, so elegant and graceful. How can you be so pretty?" Anthea smiled warmly. "Thank you," she said. She was relieved to see Diana happy, but memories of the past lingered in her mind. Diana had always taken a special liking to Anthea, and Anthea once reciprocated those feelings, but Count Valencia's favoritism had driven a wedge between them. Whenever Diana showed interest in spending time with Anthea, the Count would punish her severely. Over time, Anthea had distanced herself from Diana to spare her from harm. Diana, overwhelmed with guilt, left the household when she came of age, believing she was responsible for Anthea's suffering and Blake's anguish. So she became a servant in Blake's household, as an atonement for her doings. But unlike the original story, the real Anthea hadn't died. Diana doesn't know that the original Anthea is gone, Anthea thought. So there's no need for her to carry this guilt. You had an amazing entrance earlier, Diana said, snapping Anthea out of her thoughts. Thank you, Anthea replied with a small grin. Diana asked, how your health? I heard you fell in the lake, she replied. Oh yes, deep in her thoughts. Then Diana glanced around to see if anyone is looking, then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small object. Here, take this. What is it? Anthea asked, examining the item. It's a heating apparatus made with fire mana, Diana explained. It'll keep you warm. I wanted to give it to you earlier, but winter's almost over. Anthea hesitated. I'm fine. I've already recovered fully. Don't worry, Diana insisted. I bought this with my own allowance. Please accept it. Touched by the gesture, Anthea nodded. Thank you. I'll use it well. Diana's eyes welled with tears. Anthea said, Hey now, no need to cry. These are tears of happiness, she said quickly. Anthea offered her handkerchief. Here, use this. While wiping them away with handkerchief, Dian said, No, it's okay. I have mine. But your handkerchief sure is pretty, she asked. Did the Emperor give it to you? Anthea replied yes. Diana smiled. Yes. His Imperial Majesty must really like you. I'm glad. Anthea returned her smile, her heart softening. She genuinely seems happy for me. She's even cuter and lovelier than in the books. When Anthea finally returned to her chambers, she let out a deep sigh of relief. I'm finally home. Blake's cheerful voice greeted her. Anthea. She hugged Blake and said, I'm back, Your Highness. Good, Blake replied, giggling at her arrival, hugging her. Your Highness, how do I look? Anthea asked, standing tall. You're gorgeous, he replied. Anthea smiles at his remark. Anthea exhaled dramatically. I can finally breathe, Blake asked. Anthea, did you have fun? Anthea replied. I was so nervous that everything felt like a blur, but it was new and exciting. Did you dance? The Emperor is a good dancer, isn't he? Blake asked, his eyes curious. Anthea shook her head. No, I didn't dance. What? Why? Blake asked, surprised. Anthea smiled softly. Because I wanted my first dance to be with you. Because I wanted my first dance to be with you, she said softly, her voice steady but full of emotion. The Emperor knew that's what I wanted and understood. Blake looked away, a faint sadness creeping into his expression. You should have just danced with him. I'll never be able to attend one of those functions anyway. Why not? Anthea asked. Because I'm cursed, he replied quietly. Anthea reached for his hand, her grip firm and reassuring. What have I always told you? You're going to get better. I know it. While remembering Diana, she thinks, today, I met the person who is going to break your curse. She's quite the lovely girl. Then she said, Your Highness, just promise me one thing. What promise? Blake asked. After, when you're free from the curse, promise that you'll dance with me, Anthea said, a small, hopeful grin breaking through her somber expression. Blake replied, Of course. Who else would I dance with if not you? Blake's voice wavered as he said, Anthea, I'm scared. Your curse will be broken, Anthea assured him. You mustn't worry. It's not the curse, Blake admitted, while sniffling. I'm scared you'll leave me. I just feel like you're going to leave me all alone. Anthea's heart clenched. Where would I go? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Don't leave me, Anthea, Blake pleaded, tears forming in his eyes. You're the only one for me, Anthea. I'll do anything you want. Just don't leave me. He grabbed her in spite. Anthea pulled him into a hug. Her voice was soothing. Don't cry, Your Highness. Don't cry. As he buried his face against her shoulder, his tears dampened her sleeve. Anthea, he whispered, say you'll never leave me. Anthea hesitated. The words that once came so easily felt impossible to say now. She thinks, all I have to do is promise I won't leave him. But the white lies that used to flow so effortlessly are stuck in my throat. Promise me you won't leave me, Blake repeated, desperation in his voice. I won't leave you, she said, her voice breaking slightly. She knew the truth. I need to start preparing to say goodbye. Anthea's resolve hardened, thinking, I want to keep Blake safe, to comfort him. But in order to break the curse, Blake must follow the original story and fall in love with Diana. As for me, I'll make my exit as soon as I deal with Richard. He'll plan to snatch up Diana, if things go according to the original story. But this isn't how things are going to go at all. Blake seems to be taking too much of a liking to me. She sighed inwardly. This isn't a joke. I'm sincerely worried. I need to get the two of them to meet. A few days later, Anthea stood in the grand hall. Blake approached her. Looking composed, Anthea said, Your Highness, my little sister is visiting today. Yes, I know, Blake replied. Noticing the fine suit Blake was wearing, she thinks, this must be the outfit he had Hans prepare in secret. Even he must be excited to meet his first love. Are you nervous? Anthea teased. A little, Blake admitted. What if my sister-in-law doesn't like me? Anthea blinked. Huh! Her confusion grew. He's not excited because he's meeting his first love, but because he's meeting his in-laws? It's okay. Don't you worry, she said, tying his tie. She thinks, he might just be saying that out of respect for me. Still, their meeting is a little earlier than in the original story, but the sooner the better. When Diana arrived, she rushed toward Anthea and hugged her tightly. Anthea, you have no idea how happy I was to hear that you wanted to see me. I was so excited I couldn't sleep. Anthea laughed softly. You're as lively as ever, Diana. You're gorgeous, even today. How do you get prettier every time I see you? Diana exclaimed, her affection overflowing. She nuzzled against Anthea like an overexcited puppy. Diana, you must first present yourself to the Crown Prince, Anthea gently reminded her. Diana turned, suddenly formal. Bowing deeply, she said, I am honored to meet His Imperial Highness, the Crown Prince, the light of the Empire. Blake nodded, his tone calm and polite. Pleased to meet you, Lady Valencia, Diana replied. Your Highness, thank you for inviting me. Anthea observed them carefully. As expected, these two look even better together than I thought. Diana, Anthea said. Sorry, but I need to go meet His Imperial Majesty. Will you wait for me here? Of course, Diana replied cheerfully. No need to worry about me, Anthea said to Blake. Your Highness, could you please show Diana around the castle? Blake complied. Of course. Leave it to me. As she walked away, Anthea allowed herself a bitter smile. There. It's all for the better. As Anthea sat in quiet contemplation, she let her thoughts drift. I wonder what they're doing right now, she mused, flipping a page of the book she was pretending to read. Her mind wandered to Blake, the heir to the curse, and Diana, the heir to the light that could free him. Were they naturally drawn to each other like in the original story? She wondered. She sighed softly. It shouldn't be a problem that Diana and I are sisters. Even if we had an arranged marriage when we were young, our union could very well be nullified since nothing has been officiated yet. It's not uncommon for siblings to marry in place of one another if arrangements change. This was possible because the union of families mattered more than the individuals involved. But then, she clenched her hands. Traditions aside, if Blake says he wants to split up because he wants to marry someone else, I think I'd be upset nonetheless. The image of Blake calmly asking for a divorce flashed through her mind. Wifey, if you could please divorce me now, she imagined him saying. Her expression darkened. He's the one who said he liked me first. Anthea quickly shook her head, chastising herself. Stop it, Anthea. Don't act like you're actually 10 years old, she resolved. Blake belongs with Diana. It's for the best. Yet, an unsettling question lingered. But is Diana the only person who can save him? If I learn magic of the light, could I be the one? As she was carrying the books while walking, she thinks, I wonder how much they've bonded. But then, she heard raised voices. That's not right. Your Majesty is the one who is wrong. She wondered. Is that Blake and Diana? They should be falling in love with each other, not fighting. Anthea hurried to the scene and found Blake and Diana arguing fervently. She asked, What's going on? Diana keeps saying impossible things, Blake exclaimed. Your Majesty is the one saying impossible things. Diana shot back, her arms crossed defiantly. Anthea stepped between them, raising her hands. Whoa. Let's both of you calm down. Why don't each of you tell me what's wrong? Their faces flushed with indignation. Humph, they said in unison, glaring at each other. Anthea wondered, exasperated. Just what happened in the 2 hours I was gone. Diana blurted out. I like Anthea more than you, Blake gasped. No, I like Anthea more than you, Me and Anthea are sisters by blood, Diana declared. Well, Anthea is my wife, Blake countered. So I love her more. Anthea stood frozen, losing the will to mediate. Do children usually fight over things like this? Why are the main characters fighting over me? I've liked her for 8 years, Diana said defiantly. How long doesn't matter, Blake shot back. I'm the one who loves Anthea the most in this entire world. Anthea let out a deep sigh. Well, at least they're closer than before? As Anthea prepared the food, Blake came and hugged her. Anthea, is it bean soup today? Blake asked eagerly, his eyes lighting up. Anthea smiled. Yes. Your taste buds are the same as 2 years ago, Blake grinned. That's because yours is the best. Well then, Anthea said. Let's eat so you can go to sword practice, he replied. Okay. The moment of calm didn't last long. There's no one else in the world who loves Anthea more than me, Blake declared. Diana countered. Says who? What about me? Are you ignoring the fact that we're family? Anthea observed. They're the same, even after 2 years, Blake said. We're husband and wife, Diana replied. So what? You haven't even kissed. Blake gets flushed, his cheeks turns red. Anthea, who was observing, thinks, hubby looks like he's about to cry. Anthea interrupts. That's enough. Now, it's time for practice. Diana calls her name. Anthea! Then Anthea said to Blake, Your Majesty needs to get ready as well, he replied. Okay, my dear. Hearing that, Diana controls herself from laughing. Then she calls out, Let's see who gets to the armory first, Diana challenged. And go! Diana shouted, darting forward. Wait! Blake protested, scrambling after her. You can't just start like that. Not fair! Anthea stood back, watching the chaos unfold. Wow, they really argue every chance they get, she thought, smiling softly. Melissa commented. Things seem good between them today, as always. Anthea asked. Melissa, are things between them good? Melissa replied. Of course. I'm glad His Majesty finally has a good friend. A friend, Anthea thought, the words sinking heavily in her mind. It's just as she said. They look like they're friends. Friends with no chance of becoming more than that. And that makes me relieved. As the evening wore on, Anthea's thoughts grew clearer. Fine. I'm going to be more truthful with myself. I don't want to leave. I want to stay next to Blake, my bunny hubby, my amazing father-in-law, my cute little sister. I want to be with all of them. Melissa, Hans, Edmund, these good-hearted people are important to me too. But her resolve returned. I can't just be selfish. If I stay, if Blake's curse is never broken, then this happiness will dissipate as well. If I can't find a way until Blake comes of age, then I'll give it all up and leave. But his curse will for sure be lifted by then. Her determination solidified as she turned to Melissa. Let's go see His Imperial Majesty and His Highness, Melissa complied. Right away, Your Highness, she informed His Imperial Majesty and Blake of her decision. His Highness's curse will be lifted, she declared with conviction. The heir of the light in the Valencia family can break the curse, she explained. The strength of the light manifests as the heir comes of age. And if the two fall in love, the curse will be lifted. They both listened, but their expressions betrayed skepticism. They didn't look like they believed me, she noted silently. Anthea explained to Blake. So if the heir of the light comes forward, if I marry that person, I told you. Blake interrupted, his gaze unwavering. You're the only one for me, Anthea, Anthea insisted. But to break the curse, I don't care about the curse, Blake said firmly, his voice filled with determination. As long as I can be with you, Your Highness, she murmured, her heart heavy. I really don't need anything else but you, he insisted. Blake's resolve was unshakable. He was more focused on being together than he was on the curse. And so, time marched on. 2 years passed in that way, and the Crown Prince's palace saw many changes. The lake was filled in and transformed into an elegant arboretum. The armory and a small garden were added to the grounds, and even new servants joined them, trusted individuals who had earned their place in their home. Anthea narrated. As for me, I became a figure of authority within the empire. It's a good harvest this year as well, she noted, overseeing the realms as the most powerful female in the empire. Traditionally, this role belonged to the empress, but since Dunstan showed no intention of remarrying, he bestowed upon Anthea the Cephia Palace, along with an office space on the 3rd floor of the imperial palace. To outsiders, This was seen as a sign of immense affection from the emperor for his daughter-in-law. She thinks, everyone envied his love for me, but in reality, she slides a book and a hidden door opened. The third floor of the palace was no ordinary office. It was a treasure trove of ancient texts, filled with knowledge of light magic and the curse. It became her secret sanctuary, a place where she could dedicate herself to breaking Blake's curse. She was reading a book. 1,000 years ago, a nation called Jelkan had existed, only to be brought down by Philip, the founder of the Empire of Asterik. The ancient language of Jelkan disappeared with the fall of the nation, remaining a mystery to scholars even to this day. She remembered. In the novel, this historical detail was exploited by Richard. He spread rumors about ancient black magic that could transfer the curse from one person to another. Thenston, desperate to save Blake, fell for Richard's lies, offering himself as a sacrifice. But it ended in tragedy. Thenston's death, she determined. I need to stop that from happening, she thought. For now, Duke Carseal and Richard seemed to be lying low, but I knew they were merely biding their time. They would use the same dirty tricks when the opportunity arose. I had to prepare a secret weapon to counter them. Richard will change his plans once he realizes that I can read all languages. Suddenly someone came in and Anthea gets shocked hearing the sound of the door. Who? She turned startled. First she saw a figure approaching. Then she realized. Father! A grin spreading across the Emperor's face. Father, you look dashing today as well, she said with a playful grin. There you go again with those empty words, he replied. She replied. But it's the truth. You're the first love of every woman in the entire empire. Who's telling you such nonsense? He asked, narrowing his eyes. Everyone, she replied mischievously. Well, don't listen to them. They're all lying, he said, his voice firm. She thinks, despite his stern exterior, I knew him to be quite shy. His demeanor was always a blend of strength and tenderness, especially toward me. Have you been looking at the tablets? He asked, gesturing to the ancient artifacts. She replied, Yes. Did you come to see them as well? He said simply. I came to see you. You should have told me when you arrived. I was told you were with an important guest, she replied, meeting his gaze. There is no one more important than you, he said sincerely. His words were genuine that they caught her off guard. It was moments like these that reminded her how deeply he treated her as his own daughter. His kindness and unwavering support meant the world to her. He said, It's good to work on breaking the curse, but be sure to take it easy, she assured him. Don't worry. I know you haven't taken a single day off, he countered. I'm doing it because I want to. It's never a chore when it's something you love, she explained. But you need to get your rest as well, he insisted. She replied, That's what I should be saying to you. You stayed up all night again in your study, didn't you? If you keep overworking yourself like that, he interrupted her by tussling her hair. That's enough of your nagging now, she said to herself. I'm saying this for your own good. But she complied. Okay. At the training hall, Diana and Blake sparred fiercely, their wooden swords clashing. Hiya! Diana shouted, her strikes growing sharper with each swing. Clack! Clack! The sounds of their practice filled the air until Blake faltered. Ugh! They muttered, collapsing to the ground in exhaustion. Diana asked, Your Majesty, why don't you ever follow through with your offense? Is it because I'm a girl? Blake gave her answer. You're Anthea's little sister, he retorted. What about you? Why did you stop just now? If you went on, you would have one. Are you going easy on me because I'm the crown prince? Diana said. You're my sister's husband. There's no way I could hurt you. Why do you want to be a knight? Blake asked, his voice quieter now. Because I want to be strong, Diana answered as he raised his hand in air. Blake asked again. And why do you want that? If I'm stronger? Diana clenched his fist, determination flashing in his eyes. I can protect my sister. Blake softened at her words. I'm glad Anthea has a sister like you. I've never done anything for her, but at least you can always protect her. Blake hesitated, his voice dropping to a murmur. Diana, if I happen to die, I'll trust you'll take care of Anthea. Diana quickly sprung up in shock, saying, What? Don't say things like that. You're not going to die. How could you say something like that when you know how much Anthea loves you? She would be devastated if you died. But the curse, Blake said quietly. She said, Curse or no curse, don't you ever say something like that again. Diana snapped. We can protect her together, Diana declared. Blake agreed, okay. She raised her sword and said, Now, take an oath on a knight's honor. Blake met her determined gaze and raised his sword. I vow to protect Anthea with you, he said solemnly. Both of them smiled, looking at each other. Later that night, Anthea found Blake resting, his breathing slow and steady. He looked peaceful, though wearied from the day's events. Looking at him, Anthea thinks, Blake's the same as he was 2 years ago. Maybe it's because he met Diana earlier, or maybe it's because of my efforts to free him of his curse. Whatever it is, I'm glad. He must have had a long day. As she was caressing and tussling his hair, Blake opened his eyes. Did I wake you? Sorry, she whispered when his eyes fluttered open. No, he said softly, his lips curling into a faint smile. I'm always glad to see you. Your hands are always so warm, he murmured, grasping them gently. I always have good dreams when you're here. Did you have a lot of nightmares before? She asked softly. Yes, he admitted. Horrible ones, she asked. What were they? He said. I don't remember, I forget when I wake up, but I know they were scary. And sad, she said, concerned. You should have told me about this, he giggled. It's okay now, because you're here. After hearing that, she smiled to herself. His eyes were already looking sleepy. He has training tomorrow too. I should tuck him in. She began humming softly while patting him. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. Upon hearing that, he quickly opened his eyes and jumped. I'm not a baby, he protested. A little indignant, she replied. You're always an adorable baby in my eyes. He gets shocked. What? It must be universal for children to hate being called a baby, Anthea thought, amused. Then she said, All right, come on, my little hubby. Let's get some sleep. I'm not little either. He pouted. She teased. But you are little. I know what he's trying to say, but I can't keep coddling him like this. She nodded silently to herself. But, he stammered. Then she thinks, was that so shocking to hear? Later in the garden, Blake was looking at the height marks of all of them. He complained to himself, when am I going to get taller? Then Anthea came there and said, Your Highness, it's time for lunch. He turned to her. Anthea, I'm not hungry, she asked. Do you have a stomachache? He replied. No, it's just, no matter how much I eat, I don't seem to grow one bit, she told. You need to eat if you want to grow, he complained. Look at me. I'm still a child, she replied. You're just growing slowly, that's all. She thinks, what I said last night must have really gotten to him. She remembered, the novel didn't say anything about him being short. Richard was about 6 feet tall, and it said Blake was a bit shorter than him, so he should grow to be at least 5'6". Your Highness, Anthea said gently, I prepared lunch today. Are you sure you won't have any? You made it? His eyes lit up. She smiled. Of course. Come, let's go. Okay. He grinned brightly. Looking at him, she thinks, he's still so cute. Meanwhile, Diana was practicing with a sword in her room. 1, 2, she observed, my movements are still so clunky. That's right, Lord Edmund said to support with the left hand. Let's try again. As she began, her father came there. She quickly turned towards him. Father, her father asked while in shock. What are you doing? Nothing, she said too quickly while hiding the wooden sword behind. He demanded angrily, grabbing her arm. What do you have behind your back? She groaned. After finding out, her father lashed out. After all I've taught you, you're wasting time swinging around swords. What if you get blisters on your hands? He thinks in his mind. The entire high society is laughing at me because of what Anthea said. He recalled the Duke saying, Of course, in order for me to do that, I'd have to see how well you've educated your children. He continued thinking, but if Diana marries into the Carceal family and becomes the Empress, I can stand tall once more, he said. Diana, you need to do as I say if you want to become a successful lady. Now tell me, what happened at the Crown Prince's palace, he added with a stern look. And hide this animated crystal there the next time you go. Diana gets stunned. What? Meanwhile at the Crown Prince castle. This looks delicious, Blake exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. Steam rose from the bowl before him. He leaned in, curious, then hesitated. What is this? He picked up a bean and said, It looks like a Markle, Anthea asked, feeling offended. What do you mean, Markle? She remembered. That's the evil spirit that lives in the Valley of Chaos. It's called bean sprout soup, she explained with a sigh. I made it with the bean sprouts from the garden. The Emperor procured them for me from the east, he asked, curious. Beans? She explained. Yes. That long thing you see there? That's the bean when it's grown, she smiled. You'll grow tall if you finish it all. Really? His ears perked up. She replied. Of course, I'll grow taller? He gulped, looking at the bean. With determination, he took a deep breath. Okay. Just close your eyes and swallow. He took his first bite. How is it? She asked. He blinked, chewing slowly. It tickles my tongue like it's made of fur. It's not sweet or salty. Bean sprouts don't really taste like anything, she said with a laugh. That's why they're so good. Looking at him, she thinks. He didn't even spit it out, just nodded solemnly. I don't think he fully understood what I was saying, but, she said. Try the broth. He took a sip and immediately lit up. Wow, that's delicious, she smiled. It's good, isn't it? He replied. Yes, she told. Bean sprouts are full of nutrition, so make sure you eat it along with the broth. Okay, he said quietly, still eating. Meanwhile, tension built elsewhere. Diana was standing outside the door listening. As her heart didn't allow her to do as her father told, she resolved. I can't do this. Later at night, when she returned with the crystal, her father snapped. Diana, why have you brought the animated crystal back? She replied. Because it's broken, he asked. Did you see anything suspicious while you were there? How far has the Crown Prince's curse progressed? I'm not sure, she answered. Her father clenches his hands and said, Today, Duke Carseal announced his eldest son's engagement to Marquis Weston's daughter. Is there anything you can do right? He shouted. Diana flinched. He continued, You're not as pretty or smart as Anthea, and you lack the skills to be the center of attention in high society. If you can't do anything else, you should at least do as you're told. Diana gets stunned upon hearing that. He then looked at her wooden sword and shouted, That thing! He grabbed the sword and shouted, Why have you not thrown it out? How could you be playing around with something like this? Please give it back, she cried, lunging for it. Anthea gave it to me. It's special. He grabbed her hand and began. Look at your hands. This is no hand of a lady. Blisters. Look at all these blisters. Who would want to marry a girl who can't even take care of her hands? She realized, trembling. He's not saying this because he's concerned for me. He's angry because this could lessen my prospects for a good marriage. I'm not an accessory that you can prime to look pretty. Father, she said, voice low but firm. I won't marry, he asked while furious. What? She replied. I'm going to become a knight. I want to enter the academy next year. A knight? He scoffed. There are no female knights. Are you saying you want to do the job of some low-born commoner? She argued. That's just a stereotype. The 3rd Division commander, Countess Shannon, is a woman. She's a spinster. He sneered. She said. She's my role model. Role model? His voice rose with disbelief. Are you saying you want to become an impudent thing like her? Yes, she answered. I'm going to become an imperial knight and protect Anthea. Her hands trembled, but her voice remained steady. So stop asking me to do outlandish things anymore. As she said that, her father slapped her. She was in disbelief. Father, his eyes narrowed coldly. You'd be wise to know this is the last time I'll tolerate such disobedience. Later, Diana was going towards Crown Prince's castle while holding the crystal. She recalled the last night when her father punished her. He hit her in her calves with a whip while saying, This is all for our family, he shouted. I never want to hear this nonsense about you becoming a knight ever again. Tomorrow is your last chance. If you don't place the animated crystal, I'll marry you straight off to Count Cornwell. Diana stood tall, enduring it all. She thinks, I can't let that happen. Should I just tell Anthea about everything? Her fists clenched. No, I can't do that, she resolved. Anthea had already been married off to the cursed crown prince before she ever had a chance to dream of her own future. I can't ask her for help with something so small. I'm just being punished for not being able to help her when she needed me most. It's all my fault. The hooves echoed along the palace corridor as her carriage rolled. Anthea looked outside the window. The first snow of the season had begun to fall. She thinks it's early this year. It's only mid-November. Then she turned towards Diana, who was sitting near, and observed. Diana seems to be down today, she asked. Diana, is something the matter? She jolted. No. Her flinch was quick, instinctive. Nothing's wrong, Anthea asked again. Are you sure you're all right? Of course. She forced a bright smile and quickly stands up, saying, Let's have a snowball fight. With the crown prince too. I don't know about that, Blake replied. She asked. Why? Are you scared? He said. No, it's not that. Then let's go, she shouted, dashing towards outside. After hitting Blake with a snowball, Diana said, "Ha ha! Your face is like a snowman." She giggled. "Diana, I was getting ready." He pouted before chasing her down. Anthea looked at them from window alongside her maid. She thought, "I can't believe there was a time when I played in the snow without gloves." The maid asked gently, "Why don't you join them, Your Highness?" "I'm okay," came the reply. The maid said, "I know it's important to keep your composure, but it's okay to enjoy the snow for a little while," Anthea replied. "I'm not all that fond of snow anyway," the maid asked. "Is that so?" she replied. "It's a hassle to clean, and besides, your hands get too cold." Pfft. A stifled laugh escaped from maid. Anthea asked, "What? Why are you laughing?" She chuckled. "Sometimes I feel you're closer to my age than you are to the Crown Prince." She flinched after hearing that, then said, What do you mean? I can't possibly be your age." The maid laughed. "I'm only joking." Then Anthea also went outside to play. "Wow! Snow!" she said. "The whole world is white." Then she said to them, "I want to play too." Diana agreed. "You can be on my side," Blake complained. "Hey! Not fair." After playing outside for a while, "Let's get you a bath, Diana," Anthea said gently, noticing her soaked clothes. "You're dripping wet from the snow." "And no, it's okay." Diana shook her head quickly. "I'll wash up when I get home," Anthea pressed. "You'll catch a cold," she replied. "It's okay. I'm far too healthy to catch a cold anyway." But with a sharp eye, Anthea noticed. "Did you hurt your leg?" "No." She hesitated. Anthea thinks her cheeks were red, puffed slightly from the cold or perhaps something else. She'd fallen down more than once during their play, Anthea said. "Tell me the truth," she replied. "I'm telling you, I'm fine." "Diana." Anthea's voice softened, filled with concern. "It saddens me to think you can't be honest with me." She grabbed her hands gently, asking that. Anthea. Anthea." Her voice cracked, her eyes filled with tears. She wailed in Anthea's embrace and began while crying. She told Anthea everything. "What?" Anthea gasped. "How could you not tell me? You should have told me straight away." "I was scared. You'd tell me not to come anymore." Diana sobbed. "What if you never wanted to see me again?" Anthea replied. "How could you think that? You've done nothing wrong," she asked. "You don't hate me for this?" Anthea thought, looking at the crying girl. I liked Diana. She was the adorable little sister I never had. But she wasn't asking me this question. She was asking the real Anthea. She remembered, even in the original novel. "Anthea liked Diana too," she said gently. "Anthea Valencia doesn't hate you, Anthea," Diana whispered, hope flickering in her voice. Then she wipes her face and said, "Thanks," she said with a smile. After that, Anthea put Diana on bed, making her sleep. She thinks in her mind, Gilbert Valencia loved Diana. I couldn't forgive Count Valencia, but I didn't want to force my hatred or pain onto her. Maybe I was overthinking all of this. Still, I can't believe he would strike her and make her spy on me. She clenched her fists, thinking, I should have taken care of trash like him years ago. After that, Blake knocked on the door and slightly opens the door. He called her. "Anthea," she said. "Come in, Your Majesty." He walked inside and asked, "Is Diana sleeping?" Anthea replied, "Yes, she just fell asleep. Your Majesty, I'm afraid I'm going to have to sleep here tonight." Anthea added, "Of course. Don't worry about me," Blake said, reaching for her hand. "It's not your fault, Anthea." He gripped her hand gently. "Don't be so hard on yourself, okay?" She smiled softly. "I'll try, later." "Get out of the way!" Count Valencia shouted outside. "I cannot let you in, sir." Hans, the head butler, said firmly. Anthea's father demanded, "I am the father of the Crown Princess." But the butler remained unfazed. "The Crown Prince has ordered we do not allow you to enter, sir." The Count's face turned pale. "The Crown Prince? It's not Anthea who's stopping me, but him." "A monster cursed by the goddess?" a guard replied. "Please mind your manners, sir," the Count insisted. "I'm here for my daughter." "Move," the guard replied. "It is not possible, sir." The Count pushed the guard, saying, "I am the Crown Prince's father-in-law. Move aside at once. I will not tolerate any further outbursts." The guard warned, grabbing his arm. The Count raged. "What? How dare a commoner like you lay your hands on me? What's all this noise?" Suddenly Blake stepped into view. "Your Majesty." Hans and the guard bowed. The guard said, "Count Valencia is adamant that he enter, and is throwing a fit." "What? Throwing a fit?" Blake raised an eyebrow. He ordered, "Take him to the Arboretum." They complied. "Yes, Your Majesty." After a few moments inside the Arboretum, Blake and Count were having tea. Count Valencia gritted his teeth looking at Blake. He may be my son-in-law, but I haven't seen him since the wedding. He was nothing but an aloof little kid back then. What happened in these 2 years? As Blake took a stern look at him, the Count flinched. I'm afraid I'll have to take Diana now. We have prior engagements, the Count said. Blake replied. She's sleeping, the Count replied. Then I'll get her tomorrow morning. There is no need. Blake cut him off. Diana will be staying in my palace from now on. Upon hearing that, the Count gritted his teeth. I knew it. I knew that ungrateful little thing would betray her father like this. Then the Count began. Your Majesty, is this because of anything she has said? I'm afraid she is prone to her lies. She's the reason Anthea and I grew apart as well. She told me she wanted to be the crown princess and asked me to get rid of Anthea, he scoffed, trying to justify himself. Even if she is young, that is not something she should be saying, so I disciplined her a bit. Did you discipline my wife often in the past? Blake asked, voice ice cold. He replied. She is my firstborn, so naturally, I needed to be strict with her. It was all out of love for my daughter, he laughed bitterly. People who knew nothing went around saying I was abusing her. I'm afraid Anthea has mistaken her father, he continued. She is still quite young. Mistaken, you say? Blake repeated. The Count said. Yes, Your Majesty. Please, help a father and daughter mend their relationship, he continued, his tone suddenly sharp with hidden threat. I'm sorry to say, but Your Majesty won't be around for much longer, am I correct? Who will be by Anthea's side when Your Majesty is gone? He continued smoothly. His Imperial Majesty may adore her, yes, but she is still not of royal blood. No, if Anthea is to keep her status, she will need the help of House Valencia. Besides, she'll be the mockery of high society if word gets out about her treatment of her own father. She's bound to return to House Valencia, eventually. Blake stared at him, cold fury rising in his chest. He finally spoke. You disgust me. The Count flinched upon hearing that. Blake asked. Who said anything about me dying? What? The Count jolted upright, thinking, did he find a way to break his curse? Blake said, I promised Anthea I wouldn't die. Ha! You must be more realistic, Your Majesty. Count Valencia scoffed. Even if I should die, Blake said evenly. Anthea will not be returning to your house, the Count asked. Ha! And what will she do if she doesn't return? How dare he speak to me like that? He thought, seething. When he's nothing but a monster? You think I'm overstepping, Blake said quietly. Even though I'm just a monster? What? Sweat beaded down his brow. The Count wondered, what is this? Did he read my mind? Blake said. You seem very interested in my curse, Count Valencia. It's not like that, Your Majesty. The Count stammered, flinching. Then you must have heard this as well. Blake reached toward him and grabbed his hand. The goddess's curse is like a disease. It's infectious. It can be spread to others. Those are just silly rumors, the Count said, trembling, his voice faltering. He thinks in his mind, how is a child like him so strong? It felt like something was being sucked into his hand. His hands were trembling. Then Blake grinned. It's not a rumor. A low ha escaped him. Then a flash appeared at their hands. The Count screamed. Ag? He fell down groaning in excruciating pain. The curse marks appeared on his hand. Stay away from Anthea, Blake growled. Never come near her again. Don't even so much as breathe the same air as her. Get out. After saying that, he started walking away. Later, Anthea went to Blake's room. After knocking the door, she said, Your Majesty? It's me. Blake brightened up seeing her. Anthea, she came in with a concerned look. You don't look so well. Did you not get much sleep? He replied. No, she asked. What do you mean, no? Did you sleep at all last night? He said. I just couldn't fall asleep. She stepped closer, concerned. Then Blake pulled out a flower. Here. It's for you. I saw it in the arboretum, and it made me think of you, so I brought one. Thank you. She smiled. It's beautiful. But then Blake wobbled. Your Majesty. She quickly grabs him. Are you all right? I'm okay, Blake said, stumbling slightly. Just a little dizzy, that's all. She quickly turned, saying, I'll get the court physician. No, Anthea. He reached out and grabs her wrist gently. There's no need. Just stay with me, she retracted. But, he insisted, leaning on her. Don't go, she agreed. Okay. After that they fell asleep, and so they napped the entire day. But when Anthea woke up, she felt a strange chill. It was as if she had a nightmare, but she couldn't remember it at all. Anthea, Blake murmured, turning toward her. She blinked, sleepy-eyed. Did you have a nice nap? Blake giggled. Hee hee. Yes. And you? Why are you so flushed? She asked, raising an eyebrow. When you don't even have a fever? That's… He trailed off, face red. Because you're petting me. He's making things weird again. She thought as she fidgeted and began to slowly retreat her hand. She reminded herself. Don't forget, this is an adult novel. Then he pulled her hand and squeezed it. Wifey, he added with a mischievous smile. Anthea said. I thought you were upset I was petting you. He smiled. Ha! I never said that. She blinked thinking, is it just me, or is my little husband becoming more flirtatious by the day? The Emperor banished Gilbert Valencia to an island west of the Valley of Chaos, though he was officially given the duty of patrolling the island, but it was no different from exile. Rumors spread that he went mad there. Some said it was just a lie, a ploy so he could eventually return to the Empire, but even if it were true, no one sympathized. He had brought this fate upon himself. After that day, Diana remained at the Crown Prince's palace and began preparing for the Knight Academy entrance exams. Diana, come take a break, Anthea called. Diana turned with a grin. Wow, how did you know I was thirsty? Heh, you're the best. Her eyes sparkled. I feel like I'm the luckiest girl in the world. Anthea blushed after hearing that. You should take it easy, Anthea warned gently. Diana replied. The test is just around the corner. I can't risk it, she said. Well, don't overdo it. You can always retake it next year. No, Diana huffed, crossing her arms. I don't want to be the oldest one in my class. Is that what she's worried about? Anthea thought, amused. Diana had even turned down the noble recommendation most others used to get in. She's a good kid, Diana said, determined. I must pass this year, Anthea cheered her. You can do it, Diana, Diana said. Thanks. Later, when the result came, Anthea looked at it and said, You've been admitted as 9th in your class. Congratulations, Diana. Anthea smiled, but there was a gloomy look on Diana's face. Anthea said, Diana, being 9th is an incredible feat. I know, she admitted. I was surprised that I did better than I thought, Anthea asked. Then why do you look so sad? She sighed. Because I'll have to be away from you when I go to the academy. Then do you want to forget about it and just live with me? Anthea teased, pinching her cheek slightly. That's not what I mean, Diana muttered, flustered. I have to become a knight. So just bear with me for 6 years, okay? 6 years? Anthea's thoughts drifted. Will I have broken Blake's curse by then? Or will I have given up everything and be preparing to leave? As she lost in thought, Diana called her. Anthea? She replied, looking a little gloomy. Of course. I'll be waiting. Diana grabbed her hand and asked. You promise? You pinky swore, Anthea agreed. Okay, I promise. Then the new year came. Anthea remembered, in the novel, this was the year Emperor then Sun died after falling victim to Duke Richard's schemes. But Anthea made a quiet vow. As long as I'm by His Imperial Majesty's side, nothing like that will ever happen. Let's go, Anthea, the Emperor said gently. She replied. Yes, Father. They went to the banquet hall where announcer announced, presenting His Imperial Majesty the Emperor, the great light of the Empire, and Her Imperial Highness, the Crown Princess. Music was playing in the hall and people were dancing to it. Suddenly Richard approached Anthea and said, You look beautiful today as well. Will you still refuse my hand in a dance? She ignored him. Yes, he insisted. You'll never improve if you don't try. She shows disapproval. That's none of your concern. Anthea is great at dancing, Diana chimed in. The man smirked. Did you practice on your own then? That's cute. She didn't practice for your sake, Diana huffed. Lady Valencia, he said with a strange smile. I know you're still young, but don't you think you're being rather rude? Let's go, Anthea. Diana grabbed her arm. Anthea agreed. Sure. After a few moments, they went outside the hall to rest. My feet are burning, Diana muttered once they were away from the crowd. I can't stand these shoes. Anthea smiled, looking at her. She's a dainty girl in the novel, but it's good to see her like this too. Diana, she said thoughtfully, what do you think about Richard Carseal? I don't like him. The words came fast. He's so annoying. I can't stand him. Anthea thinks in her mind, she really seems to hate him. I was worried she'd be hung up over him like in the novel, but I guess I don't have to worry about that anymore. What about you? Diana asked. She replied, Yeah, I don't like him either. They both laughed. Later she returned to the hall and observed, maybe they're all excited because it's the first ball of the year. There's still so many people here, even when it's past midnight. She went back and sat beside the Emperor. I'm back, father. You must be tired, he said. Why have you not retired to your chambers? She giggled. Hee hee. I wanted to have a glass of wine with you. There you go again with your jokes. He smiled warmly. Come, follow me. Then they went to a balcony. Wow! You can see the whole palace from here. Anthea gasped, eyes wide with wonder. It's so beautiful. The lights glittered off the rooftops below. This room. Blake loved it, the Emperor said with a soft smile. He used to always hide in here during hide-and-seek. Anthea turned to Emperor, her tone hopeful. Father, could you visit Amoria Castle as a New Year's present? I'm sure His Highness would love it if you came. I have to be careful not to hurt him any further. Emperor then son replied quietly. Anthea said, I think you're too careful, Your Majesty. His curse will be broken, no matter what. And no one will be able to touch him as long as you're around, she said firmly. Then, more seriously, and let me remind you again, there's no black magic that can transfer the curse of the goddess to another, so you must not fall prey to anyone who promises such things, especially Richard Carseal. The Emperor grinned. Do you think I'd fall for such foolish tricks? Anthea thought I knew he would be the last one to do so, but, she remembered, in the original novel, there was a reason Nan's son fell into Richard's trap. One day, Blake's condition worsened, and the door of darkness opened. Then son, determined and desperate, tried with all his might to close it, because it was his duty as emperor. But the power of light was dangerous. Using it would risk Blake's life. So, even though he knew it was a dangerous gamble, he resorted to black magic. He had no other choice. And that was when he died. You know I'm a master of languages, Anthea said with conviction. I'll break his curse. I promise. So just trust me, father. Then son gently patted her head. Don't worry. I won't be so rash. Not now that I have 2 children to care for. Children to care for, Anthea repeated inwardly. He must be referring to me and Blake. According to the novel, then son was supposed to die this year. But I won't let that happen, because I'll protect him. Okay, she whispered. You promised. After a few days, when Diana gets ready to leave for the academy, Diana called out, Your Majesty, you know I trust you, right? I wouldn't have been able to leave my sister all alone, if it weren't for you, she asked, determined. She's in good hands. Blake agreed with her. You just worry about yourself, she said. We can debate 6 years from now over who loves Anthea the most, Blake replied. But I already know the answer to that. Diana giggled. Heh, right. It's me. What are you talking about? It's me, Blake snapped. Diana laughed. I don't think so, haha. As the argument erupts, Anthea thinks, looking at them. Why do they always end up arguing? Seriously, then Anthea said. Let's get going. We'll be late if we keep dawdling any longer, Diana said. Okay. See you on my summer break, Your Majesty, Blake replied. I'll be waiting, Your Highness. I'll be right back, Anthea said with a smile as she was going with Diana. Blake replied. Okay. Be safe, Anthea. After the carriage left. Here, take this. Diana slid something into Anthea's hand. Anthea asked. What is it? Diana said. It's House Valencia's family ring, and the keys to the manor. Father sent it to me after he was exiled, saying he was getting a divorce. Anthea refused. Diana, I can't accept that, Diana said. House Valencia was in shambles, but thanks to your mother, they were able to escape bankruptcy. And most of the fortune is your mother's anyway, so it's yours by right. She squeezed her hand saying that. Anthea replied. Thank you, Diana said. No need to thank me. I'm just returning it to its rightful owner. When the carriage reached its destination, Diana looked outside and said, Anthea, we're here. All right, Your Majesty. Shall we? Diana offered her hand. Anthea smiled. Why, thank you, Lady Diana. They were welcomed by an entourage of guards and trumpets were blown. The Night Academy gates loomed before them. The group bowed in perfect unison. We are pleased to meet Her Imperial Highness the Crown Princess, the blessing of the Empire. They must be the Imperial Knights, Anthea thought. Father, you didn't have to prepare all this. The ceremony began. Someone announced. We will now begin the matriculation ceremony to the Night Academy. Anthea observed the ceremony from the royal sitting. She thinks proudly. My Diana looks the best out of them all. Anthea, I'll see you. Diana called, saluting her. She said, I can't go now that I think about leaving you for good. I'll fend off anyone who gets in your way, so just say the word, Anthea said. Don't worry about me. Write often, okay? Go on. You'll be late. Diana waved back saying, Okay, I'll write you every day. Anthea also waved, saying, "All right." Anthea stood still for a moment, gripping the box in her palm. "Well then, I should head back to the castle," she murmured, "to where he is waiting for me." Then she returned to the Remoria castle. She showed the animated crystal to Blake, saying, "Diana was like a full-grown lady today." The guard asked, "Did she seem that mature?" Blake remarked, "She looks great." Anthea asked, "Right?" Even she had to admit yes. She barely recognized her. "But how come you didn't take any, Anthea?" Blake asked gently. "Well, today was about Diana entering the academy, not me," she replied modestly. "No, I took some of the princess," Hans chimed in. Hans told, "The Knights of the First Order captured these images of the princess in animated crystals, Your Majesty." "But why?" Anthea blinked at the sparkling collection. "And so many! It was an imperial order, Your Highness," he answered. "My father," she thought. "How could he waste such precious animated crystals on me?" she asked, confused. "But why would he do such a thing?" the maid said. "It was a present, of course," Anthea repeated. "A present?" Blake was excited to see so many animated crystals of Anthea. Looking at him, the maid said, "Yes. A present for the Crown Prince." Anthea smiled, watching the memory replay. "I'm glad he likes it." Later the carriage continued its smooth ride as Anthea's thoughts turned toward the past. The Valencia family was said to be direct descendants of Leonel Valencia, the great mage of light. Together with Emperor Philip, he had helped establish the Aztec Empire. But enraged by Philip's betrayal, the goddess of light withdrew her blessing from the land. Over time, the power of the successor of light weakened, fading from legend to myth. Eventually, no one could tell who the successor even was anymore. Still, the Valencias remained a family deeply rooted in light. She thought there must be books about the magic of light, or the curse. Maybe in the library at the manor. "Let's go in, Melissa," she said, stepping out of the carriage and standing at the gate. The maid replied, "Yes, Your Majesty." They entered the manor quietly. "Is this the Count's library?" Anthea asked, surveying the room. Looking around, she thinks, "For a family with such rich history, there really aren't that many books." "There are a few books on the magic of light here," Anthea noted, "but it looks untouched." "I've already read all of these," Anthea murmured, flipping through the books. "Maybe I'll have more luck searching the Count's study." She moved toward a heavy door and opened it with the key. As the door creaked open, she thinks, "There has to be something here that can help." The door gave way to a glittering room. "What's all this?" she muttered. "This is his study?" The room was lavish, filled with precious jewels, glittering trinkets, and fine paintings. "Not a single tome of wisdom in sight," Anthea said. "I wasn't expecting much in the first place, but I thought there'd be at least something about the magic of light, or the successor." "Your Majesty," Melissa said softly, looking concerned for her. Anthea said, "Let's go, Melissa." Anthea turned, her heart heavy. "I forced myself to return to this place, this manor filled with nothing but unpleasant memories, and I have nothing to show for it." The carriage rattled over the stones as they departed. Suddenly some words rang inside her head. "You should have died along with your mother that day," the voice from her memory screamed. "I can't even stand to look at you," Anthea gasped, her breath caught in her throat. Melissa asked, "Are you all right, Your Majesty? Should I stop the carriage?" "Yes," she whispered. Then the carriage stopped, and they went outside to take fresh air. Melissa again asked, worried, "Shall I call for the doctor, Your Majesty?" Anthea replied, "No, it's fine. I'm just sick from riding, that's all. I feel better now," she thought. "I'm not even the real Anthea, but whenever her memories flash in my mind, it's so hard to withstand it." After a few moments she said, "Let's get going." Then something caught her eye, a figure in the distance. "Wait, is that Richard?" Her eyes narrowed. "It can't be." A strange energy cracked through the air. Looking at him, she wondered, is today the day? The day Richard's life turned upside down. Richard's mother was a slave of the Room family. 1,000 years ago, the Rooms had ruled over the Western Hemisphere as the imperial family of the Zelkan Empire. But their rule was marked by cruelty and decadence. They abused their power for pleasure and lived in extravagant excess. Disgusted by their atrocities, the goddess of light grew angry. In her wrath, she withdrew her favor and gave her power to Philip instead. The Zelkan Empire fell, making way for the rise of the Aztec Empire. The once mighty Rooms were reduced to slaves, and even a millennium later, their name remained a source of scorn and shame. When the Duchess was pregnant, Duke Casil secretly impregnated a beautiful slave of Room descent, Richard's mother. At first, the Duke treated Richard as a mere servant, but over time, he began to see the boy's sharp mind and potential. Though he never formally acknowledged him, the Duke accepted Richard as his bastard son, impressed by his intelligence. Richard was overjoyed. The acknowledgement lit a fire within him. He vowed to study harder, work harder, and earn the Duke's favor so that one day he could ask for his mother's freedom. But that hope was short-lived. One day her mother was coughing. He asked, worried, "Mother, are you all right? I'll go ask the Duke to call a doctor." Huffing weakly, she replied, "It's nothing, my child. There's no need to make a fuss." But Richard knew better. He rushed to the Duke. "My lord, my mother is gravely ill. Please, could you call a doctor for her? I promise to study even harder," he pleaded. The Duke's eyes narrowed. "That wench is sick, you say? She hasn't caught Tansinol, has she?" Richard froze. "Pardon? Tansinol? Get out!" The Duke snapped. His voice was cold. Richard clenched his fists. "Yes, my lord. His mother died soon after, not from any illness, but by order of the Duke. She had been dragged to the gardens and killed. They buried her there without ceremony." The realization hit Richard like a dagger to the heart. He was only released from the shed they'd locked him in after being confirmed free of the disease. At a later moment, someone sneered at him. Richard didn't respond. He headed straight to the study, determined. There, he searched for every book he could find on Tansinol. He read, "Tansinol is an infectious disease originating from the Rheum family. It is highly contagious and fatal. Those infected develop black spots across their bodies, their faces grow ghastly, and they cough up blood. It is considered the second generation of the curse of the goddess of light, bearing similarities to the afflictions of the cursed successor." The more Richard read, the more certain he became. His mother had not had Tansinol. Everyone assumed any Rheum who fell ill carried the disease. That assumption became their death sentence. That's why she never wanted him to say anything. That's why she endured the pain in silence. He realized her mother died because of him. From that day on, Richard was never the same. His eyes, once filled with warmth, were now cold with vengeance. He vowed to take revenge on Duke Cassil and his family, to take everything from him, and kill him in the most excruciating way imaginable. And he would stop at nothing to seize the throne for himself. He would make every person who had looked down on him for being born a slave kneel before him. Anthea approached him and said, "It's been quite a while," Richard said with a calm, chilling smile. "I wasn't expecting to see you here. It must be my lucky day." The wind rustled as they stood beside a blooming tree. Looking at it, Anthea thinks, "So this is the tree," she said. "Such beautiful flowers," Richard said. "But this is a tombstone. Here lies a Rheum lady." Anthea was taken aback for a moment. "I'm surprised. He mentioned the Rheum family first. He didn't even tell Diana about them in the original novel. Did you know her?" Anthea asked. He replied, "No. I only heard that she died of Tansinol." After hearing that, she stepped closer, saying, "I see." Then she puts a piece of cloth on the branch. Richard asked, "What are you doing?" She replied, "I heard this is how you pay respects at a Rheum funeral." He asked, "Pay respects? To a member of the Rheum family?" She questioned. "Why? Am I not allowed?" Richard snapped. "Do you not know what Tansinol is?" She replied. "No. I do," he said. "Then you must be rather dim," she countered. "You don't even know for certain whether or not it was Tansinol. I've heard of many who were killed for merely being accused of having it," she added. "And even if she did have it, it's not like it's still infectious now. But you could still catch the curse of the goddess of light," he warned. She replied, "I don't believe in such foolish tales." A sudden gust of wind unraveled the knot from the cloth. "The knot's coming loose," she murmured. "I should tie it tighter." As she reached to fix it, Richard quickly snatched her hand and shouted, "Are you that high on your horse because everyone calls you a saint? For protecting even a monster? Or are you really just that naive?" Anthea was stunned for a moment, then she yanked Richard's hand and said, "I've never considered myself a saint. I simply don't enjoy being afraid of every little thing." "Afraid?" Richard raised an eyebrow. "Of course it's important to be aware," she continued, carefully tightening the cloth as it began to loosen. "But I don't want to ignore or hurt those around me simply because of my fear." Richard was in a disbelief for a moment, then a chuckle slipped from his lips. "You are one strange lady, Lord Cassil," Anthea replied sharply, lifting her gaze. "Aren't you old enough to mind your manners? Did you want me to address you as Your Highness?" he asked, mocking amusement in his voice. She replied, "It's not a matter of what I want. It's what's expected." He shrugged it off. "I'll be sure to remember that for next time," she added. And please apologize for your rudeness toward the Crown Prince, for calling him a monster. You'd be wise to remember that Blake La Rouge Jaracilian is your Crown Prince of this empire. Anthea remembers, according to the original story, Richard's evil plan should have already taken root by now. In the novel, he used and sacrificed many people in order to become emperor. But things had already begun to steer from the original plot. Perhaps the irreplaceable trickster could have changed too, Richard replied after thinking for a moment. Of course. Who in this empire doesn't know that fact? I'm glad to hear that, Lord Casil, Anthea said, turning slightly. You're a talented man. If you were to use your skills in the right way, splendid blessings would surely follow. Again, Richard wasn't expecting that. It came as a shock to him. While walking away, Anthea thinks in her mind, everyone in Duke Casil's household had been greedy, but they were so incompetent that Richard wouldn't even need to resort to tricks to claim the title of Duke. Everyone could live happily ever after if only Richard could be content with that. A blessing, you say? Richard smiled. Are you suggesting that you'll be by my side? Upon hearing that, her eyes narrowed. How dare he tease me for being called the blessing of the empire? Anthea straightened her posture. I think you need to brush up on your manners. It's getting quite late, so I'll be going now. She stepped away from him, head held high. Richard said from behind. I'll be looking forward to our next encounter, Anthea replied. I hope you'll have learned proper manners by then. Sorry I'm late, Melissa, she said upon arriving. Let's go, Melissa replied. Yes, Your Highness. As the carriage started, Anthea sighed softly. I've been gone too long. I can't wait to get back to the castle, to see my hubby's chubby little face. Richard was still standing there. He glanced down at the small trinket. This is the first gift you've ever received, huh? I'll be back next year. Mother. Emperor Thenston had never once rejected Anthea's requests. He had provided everything she asked for and even hired tutors when she told him she wanted to study. She studied hard, and taught Blake everything she learned. During a learning session with Blake she said, Your Highness, 1,000 years ago, in the time of the Zelkan Empire, the written word was reserved only for those in high society. Back then, books were made of lambskin, and were very expensive. But they burned all those books, right? Blake asked. She explained. Yes. After the fall of the Zelkan Empire and the rise of the Asteric Empire, the Rum family tried to revive the Zelkan era. The fifth prince of the imperial family, Lakshul, led the movement. They grew more aggressive with time. They even set fire to the Thenlin Palace in hopes of taking out Emperor Philip. As she continued, Anthea blinked, her body tense. She saw a horrible scene of someone in fire shouting. A strange, painful sound rang in her ears. Was it you? Did you start the fire? How could you do this to me? Open the door. Now, as the throbbing continued, she wonders, what is this? What am I hearing? Anthea! Blake's voice broke through. What's wrong? Flinching, Anthea shook her head. Oh, he asked, are you feeling sick? She replied. No, I'm fine. I was just thinking about something else, he asked, concerned. Are you sure? She said. Yeah. Okay, let's move on, she continued. The Thenlin Palace had burned, but Emperor Philip was unharmed. Lakshul predicted their efforts would be wasted, so he destroyed all texts written in the Zelkan language. Lakshul told his servants, all history and knowledge of this land is due to the almighty Rums. Should the Zelkan Empire disappear like this, all knowledge of the world shall perish alongside it. But knowledge shall return when the Zelkan Empire reigns once more. If the Rums hadn't burned all those books. As she was saying that, she glanced at Blake. He was suffering from pain and was trembling. Your Highness! Anthea gasped. Are you all right? He forced a smile. Yeah, I'm fine. Looking at him, she thinks, Blake always says he's okay. But there's no doubt it must be excruciatingly painful. My, is that the time? She said at last. Let's stop here for today, he replied. Okay, she added. And I think it would be best if you skipped your sword lessons, he said. But I didn't practice yesterday either, she resolved. It's probably hard enough to hold a sword in that state. I need to make him rest. He's too diligent. She reached for him gently. Come here, and take a nap. I'm too tired from all that studying. I think I need a nap before my next appointment, he muttered, flustered. And maybe not the bed, she said. Come on. I can't sleep without you next to me, Blake blushed. But that's your bed, Anthea. What does that matter? She asked, already tugging him closer. Quickly, come on. He stammered, visibly flustered, even as she gave a soft pull. It matters. he added with a blush, though he didn't pull away. After they laid down, Anthea patted him. Anthea thought caressing him. At least, he doesn't have a fever. The color had started returning to his cheeks. Stay put, she said, starting to get up. I'll go get a furnace. A hand grabbed hers. Don't go. I'm not cold. Not when you're beside me. His words made her pause. I'm sorry, she added quietly. He asked. For what? She replied. For being so useless. If I were the successor of Light, you wouldn't have to be in so much pain. Don't ever say that. He squeezed her hand. I'm the happiest man in the world to have you as my wife. He nuzzled into her, and her heart melted. All right, she whispered. Let's get some sleep. Okay, he replied with a small smile. After he fell asleep, she observed, his hands are warm. The color in his cheeks had fully returned. She let out a breath of relief. But how could she have fallen asleep so easily? What if his condition had worsened while she slept? Anthea, are you awake? He asked, sitting up. Yes, she answered quickly. How are you feeling? He showed thumbs up. Great! I could go train right now. That you can't do, she said firmly. You promised to stay next to me today, didn't you? Oh, that's right. I'm going to be with you all day, Anthea, he declared proudly with a nod. Andia Wooderyudin? He said while she pinched his cheeks. Then she said, My hubby is just too adorable. Nah, by the way, she said. I got a letter from Diana today, he asked. Has she finished her winter training? Anthea said. Yes. She seems to have enjoyed it. I wrote her a response earlier. Would you like to send her one as well? Blake awkwardly said. It's okay. I'll see her on the holidays anyway. Oh, okay then. She studied his casual tone. He was treating Diana like an old friend who had gone off to service. There was not even a hint of the original love line from the novel. She glanced at the rose on the table. A red rose. Blake's first gift to me. Ever. What are you doing, Anthea? He asked, approaching her curiously, and hugged her. She replied. Just admiring how pretty the rose is. Your beauty has no rival, he replied without missing a beat. She laughed. Ha! He asked. Why are you laughing like that? You know how to compliment someone so casually. She chuckled. My little hubby is all grown up, he said. Arg, I'm 11 now. I'm a man. You're only 2 years younger than me. You mean I'm 2 whole years older, she corrected. He fell silent. Seeing that, she realized, Oops. Is he mad? I should stop teasing him. She reached out again and checked. He doesn't have a fever. Phew. I need to check in on him more often, she thought. He seems to be getting sick more than usual lately. Your hands are so warm, Anthea, he said, nuzzling into her again. Hee. My hubby is the cutest in the whole wide world. She hugged him tightly, blushing. And handsome? He asked. She excitedly said. So cute. Later she prepared tofu and said to Blake and Savats to try it. Now go ahead and try the tofu while it's still warm. Steam curled up from the bowl as she set it before them. She added, and some delicious soy milk, too. Wow, this is delicious! Everyone exclaimed, happily chatting between bites. Melissa said, I like the nuttiness, a servant remarked. You're a genius, Your Highness. It's not like I invented it, she replied, a little bashfully. Besides, you all helped with the hard part. I won't be able to escape their compliments at this rate, she thought, amused. Then she said, Well, enjoy. I'm going to take some to His Majesty before it gets cold. They complied. Yes, Your Highness. Then Unhan in the form of cat approached her. Oh, hello, kitty, Anthea gasped. I haven't seen you in so long. Where have you been? She picks him up to pet. Blake looked at her suspiciously, then said, I'll watch the cat, he said. Why don't you go take that before it gets cold? She confirmed. Are you sure? It's better to eat it while it's hot. He smiled brightly. Don't worry about the cat, she replied. Okay. I'll be back soon, he said. Sure, I'll be waiting. As Anthea was going away, Unhan thinks in his mind, This is bad. I have to run away, but I can't seem to move. He was sweating, thinking, what kind of power does the crown prince have? She glanced at the prince. The Prynek glared. Who are you? His breath caught. Meow. He thinks, I'm in trouble now. Don't even try to play dumb, he said sharply, staring at the cat. I already know you're not really a cat. Why are you snooping on Anthea and me? He drops the cat down and interrogated. I've been thinking about what you could be. When I was young, there was a person who appeared every time I was sick. He healed me, he recalled. He clenched his fists, breath hitching in memories. After I'd gotten the mark of the curse and was banished to the annex, All my nights were sleepless. I was tormented by nightmares, and the pain it felt like it was ripping through my skin. I called for my father every night, but he never once came. The pain of the past surfaced in his clenched jaw. I got so used to it that I didn't even call out for him in my dreams anymore. He paused. But just then, a man in black appeared. Whenever he was around, I felt better. He healed me. He was dark, and I could smell a hint of water on him, like the fog. His eyes narrowed. And I feel that same energy from you now. You smell the same. The cat didn't move. Unhan thinks in his mind. So he already knew who I was. Well then, there's no use hiding anymore. The cat shifted form and turned into a human. I'm humbled to meet His Imperial Highness the Hope of the Empire. The figure bowed respectfully. I am Unhan, Your Highness. So it was you, Blake murmured. I am loyal to His Imperial Majesty. Unhan continued. And he has ordered me to protect you in secret, Blake said. So, His Majesty sent you? Blake felt touched. I thought he'd forgotten about me because of the curse, but I guess not completely, he asked. Are you from the east? Unhan replied. Yes, Your Highness. I am from Chang, Blake said. You're so pure, Unhan asked. Pardon? The prince studied him, his stare unwavering. You're dark, but your energy is clean and pure. So different from me. There was a pause, then the question came. But why have you revealed yourself now, when you're supposed to guard me in secret? Unhan replied awkwardly. I'm sorry to say, I missed the food from back home, he asked. Food? Yes, Unhan said, straightening. After seeing the crown princess cook, I was reminded of home. I couldn't resist. That's why I was caught. His eyes dimmed with shame. I dared to defy His Majesty's orders for such personal matters. I shall report this and receive punishment. I will also ask Her Highness for forgiveness. There's no need, the prince said quickly. You've watched over me for a long time now. I don't want to see you punished. Unhan hesitated. But, the prince cut him off. Don't tell anyone. I won't either. Unhan blinked in surprise. I spent all that time disguised as a cat, fooling everyone. But he's not even angry. He's offering to keep my secret. He felt touched. Thank you, Your Highness. Then Blake took a step forward and muttered near his ears. Don't you ever get near Anthea again, the prince said suddenly, voice turning cold. Unhan froze. If you ever try anything like that on my wife again. His eyes glinted with quiet fury. I won't forgive you. Unhan nodded in understanding. Blake was on guard thinking, he's just Anthea's type, all Eastern looking, and he's handsome too. I don't ever want Anthea to see him again. Anthea went to Imperial Palace. She knocked at the door and said, Father, it's me. Colin was there. He greeted her. Ah, Your Highness. You're finally here, she asked. Were you waiting for me? He replied. Of course. I always look forward to your visits every day, Anthea grinned. You mean you look forward to going home? He said with a smile. Well, you are my goddess of going home. You're the only one who can release me from an endless day of work. Anthea thinks in her mind. He sounded like he was joking, but I've never seen him actually go home at a reasonable time. Such is the life of a salaryman. Then the emperor chimed in. Stop spewing such nonsense and go home, the attendant said. Yes, Your Majesty. Anthea glanced at him sweating. His Majesty didn't seem to be in a very good mood. The attendant then said, If you hadn't come to visit, I would have been here all night. His eyes welled slightly. Colin, the emperor said, do you wish to live out the rest of your days in the palace? I can make arrangements for that, you know. He grinned. Anthea shivers thinking, how can he say that with such a straight face? Then Colin quickly said, I shall be going now, Your Highness. Then he left. Anthea turned to the emperor. Father, you shouldn't overwork yourself. You're spending more and more time in your study. The emperor smirked, flipping through some papers. Has the scolding begun already? I'm serious. She frowned. Then the emperor noticed. Your dress is much too thin for this weather. You need a proper coat. No, it's fine, she retorted quickly. I have plenty of clothes, so many I haven't even worn them all yet, she said inwardly. I can't believe how quickly he changes the subject. That's not why I'm here, she said, holding a box. Try this, he smiled. Come sit here, Anthea. The emperor gave a rare, fond smirk. Let's eat together, she replied. Yes, father.